Hey, what's going on, everybody? Hi, it's Tuesday. We're running out of July. We're running into April. No? Let me look at a calendar here. Calendar.exe. August. It says August here. Ooh, try the new Outlook. Let's toggle that on. Well, what's the worst that could happen there? There's a spinning wheel. There's a wheel a-spinning. That'll probably be fine. Let's just close that and pretend nothing happened. Hi. I'm your host for this week's installment. I'm Jeff Gerstmann. This is the Jeff Gerstmann program. It's a program about video games. And boy, howdy. What's up with video games? Am I right? They're going crazy. You can play them on anything. Your refrigerator. People are playing them on chicken nuggets now. People playing, you got kids in China playing Tetris on a chicken nugget. That ain't right. I haven't opened this yet. I have a chicken nugget shaped Tetris machine here that was, I guess in Chinese McDonald's. They were this was part of a promotion over there. I managed to get my hand on one of these because Mr. Addons.com has been, I guess, has a line on them, has been importing them in bunches and selling them. So I was like, well, I need to buy some cables that'll let me hook my JogCon up to the Mister, and so I might as, with these, the Chinese Tetris nugget is in stock, and this all works out great, and I haven't had time to look at much of any of it because I have to get out in the garage and find my JogCon. I thought I knew what box it was in. Turns out I don't. So, I just want to play some Ridge Racer Type 4 the way it was meant to be played. JogCon style. And I think I have been wanting to get back into DDR, and I don't know how, that's not going to be, it's going to be really hard to have a dance mat in here. Well, we'll see. I don't know. If you turn DDR down low enough, I wonder if a 4-year-old could grasp the power of DDR. But I have a dance mat in the garage. I know where that is, and I know that's all ready to plug in. But now I have the adapter that'll let me plug in native PlayStation controllers into the Mister. In a way that's different than just I won't go into the details, but it's much different than a simple USB adapter that just like has a PlayStation port on it. It's is something that is a little bit, better weirder controls. And yeah, I don't know. That's all pretty exciting. Had a big weekend. It was my daughter's birthday, so she went off and got all dressed up, and they do. Disneyland is the Insidious. I did not go. I stayed home with the boy because he just seemed like he was too young to go, and it was like this is going to be, it's going to be 100 degrees on pavement and all, just all this other stuff. So my wife went with some other folks in the family, and went with my daughter, and they ended up going on a couple of rides, but it was mostly, they do all this extra stuff now, and I think I understand why. Like when you go to Disneyland, it's like you need to download the app and schedule this and do that and all of this other crazy stuff. So there's a whole thing you can do where you get to have breakfast with people dressed up like the princesses, and they will dress you up like a princess and everything. So they ended up doing that, and had a really good time with that. my daughter came back all dressed up, all in makeup and all this other stuff, and I was like, this is crazy. This is cool. So yeah, they had a great time, and then we did a local party the following day, and invited some of her friends and so on and so forth, and had to get a permit for the park and whatever else. We got a bouncy castle, which was very exciting. This is my first time being responsible for the rental of a bounce house. My wife did it, but it was my credit card, so that still counts. And so I decided, like as they're inflating this thing, I'm like, they're gonna leave this thing here for 2 hours, and I'm getting in this thing. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care who, if they're like, oh, make sure no adults get in here. I'll be like, yeah, I will, absolutely. Of course. Yeah, no, we'll keep it safe. Get out of here. And so I needed to get in that thing. I had a primal urge. I've never been, it was my first time in a bounce castle. I've never been in a ball pit. I don't know if I missed the ball pit wave of the 80s. I was just a little too old for ball pits, or just there were not a lot of ball pits in my area. And in fact, there were no ball pits in my area. So anyway, the kids got in the bouncy castle. There was one kid who was being too fucking rowdy in there, and I was like, this sucks, man. He is like pushing some of these little girls over, and I can't just yell because the kid's parent is over. And it's just like, you're looking at it going like, how am I supposed to manage this other than yank this kid out and smack him across his fucking face, because that's what I wanted to do. Anyway, that got dealt with, and it's the park has like a big water splash pad. Water comes out of the ground. They just have a bunch of cement. It's a cement circle with a bunch of holes in it, and water shoots up, and kids have a great time. And it's a great time. It's I love to run around in the water as well. This is another thing I'm finding, that not a lot of parents running around in the water with their kids. They're all standing around the edge, looking at their phone, doing whatever. And I'm doing some of that too, but like, I'm running in there and being like, hell yeah, let's get in there and get wet, damn it. So I don't know, parents, adults, I don't know, like I'm not, look, I'm not the most fucking like flighty fucking weirdo in the world or anything, but like I want to be in the goddamn bounce castle. I want to be in the splash pad, especially on, when it is 97 degrees or something like that. And so I called my shot. Both my kids were in the bounce castle, and none of the other kids were there. A couple kids had left. It was getting near the end. We had the thing for 2 hours, and I'm like, I'm getting in this motherfucker right fucking now. And I got in there, and I laid on my back and spread out, and my kids hopped around me. It was very silly. And I was like, this was worth it. This is awesome. Having kids is badass. This is great. It was cool, man. I didn't like jump around all crazy in there, because that, probably would fucking break it. I don't know. You have like 10 kids in there, so I don't know what the weight limit is, but but yeah, that was cool. But for the duration of the party, I kept telling, it's like, most of these people, because I don't leave the house much. So, I haven't met most of these people. There's a couple of people I've met before. But, I'm like talking to these parents, and I'm just like, I'm like walking up to one of the other fathers that was there, and I'm like, before this thing's over, I'm getting in that fucking bounce castle. And he just looks at me like, huh? And I'm like, and like, no, just nothing. And again, I can be pretty dead to the world on a lot of things, but the bounce castle was not one of them. And so I'm very excited that I did get in there. As I was in there, the people who came to put it away, who came to take it back, they're like, "Hey, your 2 hours are up." They came and they're like looking at me in there, and I'm like, "Ah, shit." And I started wondering if it was like a hotel where, like, if you smoke in the room, you've got to pay a fee. If there was something in the contract somewhere that was just like, if any adults get in this thing, we're charging you $400. I was like, well, whatever, worth it. We'll see how it goes. And you know, I don't know. They looked at me kind of sideways, which was the most reaction I got from anyone, really. But yeah. Anyway, I got in the bounce. I got in the bounce castle, which was my goal. Which was my goal. So, you know, mission accomplished. It was a hell of a weekend, and yeah, I recommend it. Rent a bounce castle, and then you know, run around in some of those. Have a good time. And yeah, it feels like it's been forever since we've spoken, because, you know, that was Friday, so, you know, I wasn't streaming Friday, and I was like, oh right, geez, okay, yeah. But yeah, I've been playing some. You know what? Let's just for in the interest of smoothness, let's take a break. Let's take our one break here. We'll come back. We'll drink a drink that is strawberry peach flavored. We'll see how that goes, and then we'll talk about some video games. This Diablo IV patch and the game with a name too long for me to read right now, but we'll read it in a minute, and we'll be right back after this. Are you waking up too hot? Or are you waking up too cold? If you're in either one of these scenarios, you need to check out Miracle Made's bed sheets. Inspired by NASA, Miracle Made uses silver-infused fabrics and makes temperature-regulating bedding so you can sleep at the perfect temperature all night long. That's all set up so that you get better sleep every night. These self-cooling sheets keep you from getting too hot. And their sheets, you know, they're covering you up, keeping you from getting too cold. Try to keep you at that good, nice temperature that's going to help you sleep great all night long. But there's more to these sheets. That silver infusion also prevents up to 99.7% of bacterial growth, leaving them to stay cleaner and fresher 3 times longer than other sheets. No more disgusting odors, funky. No one wants funky sheets. You want them to stay clean. The silver helps with that. 99.7%. And also, they feel great. Luxurious comfort and quality. Without the high price tag of other luxury brands, these Miracle Made sheets feel as nice, if not nicer, than bed sheets used by some 5-star hotels. So stop sleeping on bacteria. Stop getting your pores all clogged up from your funky sheets, breakouts, and acne, and all this. Blah. Sleep clean with Miracle. Go to trymiracle.com/Jeff today, right now, to try Miracle Made sheets. And whether you're buying them for yourself or as a gift for a loved one, if you order today, you can save over 40%. And if you use the promo code Jeff at checkout, you'll get 3 free towels and save an extra 20%. Miracle is so confident in their product, it's backed with a 30-day money-back guarantee. So if you aren't 100% satisfied, you will get a full refund. Upgrade your sleep with Miracle Made. Go to trymiracle.com/Jeff and use the code Jeff to claim your free 3-piece towel set and save over 40% off. Again, that's trymiracle.com/Jeff to treat yourself. And thanks to Miracle Made for sponsoring the episode. All right, we're back. Let's talk about some video games. I love that this game exists, and it is almost everything that I would want out of this. It is called, oh man, D3 put it out. It's on Steam right now, and it is called, yeah, you want those games, right? So here you go. Now let's see you clear them, in all caps. And it is $10. And they did it. Someone went and made you've seen, okay, you're on the internet, you're trapped on the internet like I am. So you've seen all of the ads, the mobile game ads for with the weird, like, pull the pins out and let the guy walk to the treasure, and all of the fucking, I don't know if you've gone through the process of ever downloading one of those. I have partaken a couple of times, and like looking at the ad and being like, I would play a game that was that, and then going to the App Store and looking at the game and scrolling through it and being like, that's not the game at all. None of that is here. What the hell is going on? And then you'll find like 20 knockoffs on the App Store that are trying to sort of be that, but then they also aren't that. It's a really, it's a crime. It seems like, I thought false advertising was a criminal act, and I think these things are in the game somewhere, and maybe that's how they get away with it, is there's like, it's the bonus thing you get for playing this other fucking dog shit free-to-play game for 100 hours, and then like, oh, now here's this other part. And so this is stuff like I said, I think the marquee game in this is the game where there's treasure and there's a guy and there's little pins in the environment that you pull out. And if you pull out the wrong pin, like, oh, the rock fell on the guy, or, oh, the wolf ate the man, or whatever. And so this game, you want those games right, so here you go. Now let's see you clear them, is like 4 of those games from mobile game ads. And it's just a bunch of those. And it's like 100 levels of each one of these games. And there's one for color, like a color matching, like pour the colors into the tubes, like Tower of Hanoi, but colors kind of thing, I guess. And there's the one with the different towers with numbers over the guys' heads, and you have to get the lower number and make it add up, and just real simple stuff. And so Monkey Craft, who is a developer who did, I guess, the PC versions of Katamari Damacy Reroll, and Reroll Plus, and the one that just, Royal Rumble is the one that just, Royal Reverie is the one that just came out. And then they also did this. It's very simple in structure. It is on PC. I don't know if this also appeared on consoles. I would not be surprised if it did. But I want the one where the fucking guy is walking up the pathway with the gun, and then there are gates that are either adding or subtracting to the number, and you're like, oh, I don't want to go through the gate that's -20. I want to go through the one that's times 12, and now I have times 12 the guys as before, and so they're all shooting. I don't think that's in here. if it is, it's not advertised in any of the, but like, that's the one I actually want. That's the one I look at and go, huh? Because some of the ads are like, for that style of game are like, it's adding time. And so you're moving forward. So you're getting weapons and moving forward back in time. So you're walking along this path, and there are all these just like brain dead zombies. And you go through these gates, and the idea on the time one is like, oh, you start with a stick, but if you go through this time that adds 40 years, then maybe you have an AK-47, and then you go up again, you got a laser gun. And so you're making sure that you're, not going through the backwards gates that are giving you the wrong weapons or whatever. It's like simple, dumb stuff. But you just look at it and go, I would not mind fucking playing those. I would really, and then you go and look at the games, and they're not those. It's always like, oh, that's not the game. There's like one little bit of the game that's that, and the rest of it is like the worst fucking free-to-play match 3 you've ever seen in your life. And like, okay, if you can make the game for the ad, why wouldn't you just make that game? It seems like that's the thing that people want. And now here, D3 and Monkey Craft have come together to try to actually do this. And it's a really interesting experiment, and we'll see how it goes. So far, the Steam reviews are very positive. It's like $10. But maybe the problem is that this is not a thing you would want to do for hundreds of hours. Maybe it's a thing you would do for like 25 levels and be like, yeah, okay. Yeah, all right. Yep. Got my fill of that. That's my guess. we'll see. It's a very simple instructor thing. It's got like you're earning currency for clearing missions, and then there's a gotcha, like a machine that you're getting titles out of, so you can create your own title like it was Diablo 4. But it's a single, like there's no real need to do that. But give this a look. The name again is called Yeah, You Want Those Games, Right? So here you go. Now let's see you clear them. That's the full name of the title. You could probably just type in those games on Steam. I don't know. But yes, it is. It's on PC. Seems like it is also available on consoles as well. And what they do is it's a time-based thing. So the faster you clear the level, you get 3 stars, and then that helps you unlock more levels and blah 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 blah. I would love to see a sequel to this that has the game with the running and the gates. I need that game. That's on the list of those games. That is the one I need the most. Not the, or maybe the match 3 with the guy and the lady running away from the zombie. That's like kind of occasionally a match 3, but it's really, or the one that's like, are you going to help the guy get away, or are you going to turn him over to the mafia? You're a level 40 mafia man. Just like that. Those don't even look like games. So I don't know what you would do with that, but these is games. These are those games. Them's is those games. And congratulations to someone for finally making that game. Though those games, I guess. I have also been playing Viewfinder, which I streamed last Wednesday. That video is up on YouTube. It's $25 on Steam. It is a game in the same vein as, I don't know, Portal, the Talos Principle, The Witness. It's a first-person puzzle game. Superliminal Antechamber is in maybe another one that kind of comes up a little bit here. Not as often, because not enough people are talking about Antechamber. Antechamber is now, I believe it is now 10 years old. The developer of Antechamber kind of vanished for a while, and you thought like, oh, this person's next game, I would love to see what he's working on. I went and looked to see what he was up to, and found that he is angry about something and channeling that into a new game. I'm like, yes, I understand completely. Angry about something in video games and saying, oh, I'm gonna fucking make. He's probably making the game where you run up and shoot the zombies and go through the gates. He's like, that's not those games. So we'll see if that bears fruit. Anyway, Viewfinder, the core idea here is that you either find pictures or you eventually get a camera and you can use it to take pictures. And then you can take that picture and hold it up in the world and basically let it go and then walk into it. So you can take a picture of a wall, rotate it sideways so that it's a floor, put it in a gap, let go, and now you can walk across that gap. It is visually mind-blowing when you see that stuff in action. And I have to say, like, the freedom you have to place those pictures, and you can always rewind if you put it in a weird spot. They let you dig yourself out of a hole very easily. But, like, you can slap those pictures really anywhere and the game will do it. It's not always going to help you solve the puzzle, of course, but like the freedom you have to plop those photos down is really striking, because it seems like the sort of thing you're like, well, that's nuts. So clearly it's only going to work in this highly specific way, and you got to do, it only works here, and the game is built around it, but it super works. Wherever you put the pictures, it works. It's really crazy as a mechanic, just like watching the world seamlessly like warp into another thing because you plop that picture down, and now that is the geometry of the landscape, of what you're walking around. Is really cool. Really, really cool. And So that mechanic is incredible. It is a top flight puzzle game mechanic that I would put up there with the portals from Portal, and all of these sorts of things. It is a world class radical mechanic, and when you see it in action, it is mind blowing. But the game, and I've not finished it quite yet. It's not that long. Sounds like it's somewhere in the 4-hour range. I just need to kind of sit down and blast through the rest of it. It's not super hard. There are some optional challenges that are a little bit more challenging, but generally speaking, it's pretty rudimentary. Like and I'm sure that's some people will probably get stuck in different spots and whatever else, right? But it's it feels like they're not really taking full advantage of what that mechanic is and what it could offer if you really went nuts with it, and I hope, it's the sort, it's, when they would put out like new Super Mario Brothers and you would cruise through it in like an afternoon and be like, what the fuck? And roll credits on it and be like, this is abysmal. What? I love this game, but boy, it's so easy. And then it would be like, oh, you need to collect all the coins if you want to unlock the actual levels that are maybe challenging. Like, I'm almost hoping it does something like that, though. In that case of that Mario game, was New Super Mario Bros. 2 that did that? That was I don't want to collect those. I don't want those coins. I don't want to go back and get all the red coins in the Mario levels to unlock the levels that are actually fun to play. That was a miserable, unfortunate experience with a wonderful game. Anyway, sorry. Viewfinder, it seems very easy. Also, the story hooks and the character stuff, they kind of hang on it. I don't think works very well. I don't think it's actually very I don't think it's very engaging. I think it is the basic idea of it, the way they present it, is you are going inside of a simulation to try to find plans for a weather machine so you can solve the climate crisis. And so you are like you're in this simulation world where this photo thing works, and you're finding all these Post-it notes that as the scientists who were in there working on their machine were, getting in arguments with each other. They're like leaving competing Post-it notes all over the place in ridiculous fonts, and it's just real. And phonographs with audio logs on them, so you're kind of listening to some of these audio logs, and none of that stuff's particularly great. But then there's the voice of the character who is outside the simulation, and she's talking into you, and it's just this like overly cheery British lady who's just like, all right, we're gonna get in there, and you're like, it's not good. It's not engaging. It does not. It doesn't feel vital in a way that's like, oh, I'm understanding more about the world. I'm understanding more about the puzzle at hand. It's not like a hint system. It's at some point it just becomes like a voicemail system almost, where you're like getting messages from the lady on the outside, and you're just like, this is terrible. And so that stuff really, that stuff drags it down. It's frustrating. Because like with better writing and more engaging characters, this could be a much bigger deal than I think it will end up being. And someone in chat's asking, does it even need an overt narrative? I would ask you the same question about Portal. Like, you could have made Portal without any of the dialogue, and the game would have been less for it. And so, obviously, that's a high standard to hold games to. But I think if they had hit something a little bit better than what they landed on, where, like, every time they talk, you're just like, come on. This doesn't need to be here. Like, for superfluous writing like that, in a genre where the bar has been set so high, you look at it and you go like, this, even if it doesn't need to be better than Portal, it doesn't need to match Portal, but if it even could approach finding ways to make these characters interesting or likable or whatever, or, you know, just like less grating, I think it would have gone a long way to kind of giving this game a more outsized footprint than it has. But because it doesn't land that stuff, it's like and also because I think a lot of the puzzles are very easy. I think it ends up becoming a conversation more about how amazing that mechanic is of putting the photos in the world and watching it happen, as opposed to look at this amazing video game. It more becomes like, look at this amazing mechanic. If the rest of the video game around it was better, this would be like, you know, the second coming. This would be, you know, like people would be talking about it in a much different way than I think they will end up talking about it. Either way, I do think Viewfinder is absolutely worth looking at. It is so cool. The mechanic is so cool that I really think you need to see it for yourself. Like the trailer is, you know, gives you an indication of what that stuff is, but actually getting your hands on it, and I think there was a demo. I don't know if there still is, but and being able to mess around for yourself is really engaging. It's $25. And I really do like that mechanic. I think that mechanic carries it a really long way. And I'm looking forward to kind of just knocking out the rest of it. Yeah, kind of finishing it up a little bit. This morning I played a little bit of it. You know, I played some Remnant 2. I don't really have a lot to say about it because I'm super early in it. Just how busy I was over the weekend. The game went live on Friday for people who got the expensive version, so I started playing it on Friday night and kind of got into the tutorial a little bit, and I got to, I think what's probably the halfway point of the tutorial. I think I got through the action part of the tutorial, and now I am in the, like, here's what you do in a city part of the tutorial. And so I kind of need to knock it something. I'm super early on. But I did play like half hour of it back in June and ran around some environments and you know, kind of did the combat. It seems like a game. It seems like it is a better game than its predecessor. It seems like that was the impression I got from talking to a couple of folks there when I was playing the game. Is it really seemed like they were keenly aware of what a lot of the feedback from the first game was, and they were kind of like, okay, we need more varied environments, we need more of this, you know. And so there was a lot of stuff around like, hey, why don't we find ways to make sure that this game is you know, better than its predecessor. And I think that seems to be what they are achieving here. But you know, I've again, the opening is very lengthy, and so I have not made my way through it yet. I think I put like a quick half hour into it, and then was like, okay, I got to this city. This seems like a good stopping point. I've got to go do something else, and ran off and did that. But it looks nice, and you know, it is a Souls-esque sort of thing. Stamina bar, rolling, boss fights. You know, fog door type thing. It's a fog door like. A fog door light. Yeah, I don't know. I want to see some more of it. It seems cool. Similarly, I spent some time playing Mr. Run and Jump this morning. Or I guess it's technically Mr. Run and Jump Neo, because Atari went and put Mr. Run and Jump out for the 2600. And so this is like a pseudo sequel to a game that just recently came out. Because it was I don't know, it's weird. The Steam page is called Mr. Run and Jump. When you scroll down, it says buy Mr. Run and Jump Neo. So I don't know. They can't figure out what that game should be called. So why should I? It is a, yeah, you can do, yeah. Neo is Neo Mr. Run and Jump does it. He's a little dude. This game seems like it is, it's a platformer, side-scrolling platformer, very classic kind of hey, you can double jump. Hey, you can stick to walls. Do slide down walls. You can do wall jumps. And there are spikes. And so it seems like a game that someone sat down and said, let's, in the vein of a Celeste or a Super Meat Boy, but perhaps less devious than that, or at least early on, less devious than that. I only played the first few levels. I would like to think it gets a lot harder. And so it's one of those. It is one of those style of platformers of, kind of retro style look and feel. And I'd say it feels pretty good. I think it looks nice for what it is in that kind of vague retro style. I don't know about the $25 price tag for it. That seems a little steep, but we'll probably play some more of this week. Because I want to get into it a little bit more and kind of see what else it has going for it. But I don't know, like it feels like there were a billion platformers like this for a while, and then suddenly there were not. And so I don't know, it's kind of weird that another one of these is available. But and also I guess the thing that drew me to it is I am endlessly fascinated by what new Atari is doing, what Neo Atari is doing. And I got an email from them, I think because I bought stuff from the Atari Hotel. I don't know how I ended up on their mailing list. They are selling fucking Warlords boards. You can go to atari.com and for $245, you can buy a Warlords arcade board. Atari has partnered with restoration and recreation specialists Retro Arcade to create a new series of collectible printed circuit boards. These amazing reproductions are officially licensed and authentic reproductions based on the original PCB sets. So if you ever, and so they've called it a new revision. They've called it Revision D, which I don't think there was originally a Revision D, but they just straight up have something on their store. And there's one other game they're selling. I don't remember. It might be Lunar Lander, but they're just, if you want to buy an arcade board for Warlords, they will sell you one for $245. And if you have a Warlords cabinet that needs a new board, I think you could just put this in it, which is fucking weird. Is it JAMA? So no, it's probably not JAMA for those that are asking, because this is before JAMA was a standard. I can look it up, but I do not believe Warlords is a JAMA game. No, you could get a JAMA adapter. Someone, if you took the pin out and then wired it into a JAMA harness and then went out the other side, you could convert it to the JAMA standard. But because it's a paddle game anyway, the controls are going to be fucking bizarre no matter what you do. I am tempted to. I don't have my Warlords cabinet anymore. I ended up selling it. Because it wasn't getting any use. And so I just didn't need it anymore. It was just sitting in the garage collecting dust. And I was like, man, that's no good. This Warlords machine is beautiful. It should be out there getting played. And then, and then I sold it, and I think the pandemic hit not long after that, or this was in the middle of it. I forget. But you could build I couldn't. Someone could go and build a cocktail cabinet and put all the Warlords shit on it, and then buy one of these boards, and then have yourself a somewhat authentic Warlords machine. Product details. At 11.5 by 17 inches, these boards are stunning wall pieces. These boards use the original bill of materials, follow the original schematics, and can be used to replace damaged original boards by using the original parts from these boards. Done in a striking matte green with yellow silk, these boards are serial numbered with official Atari licensed stickers. That's fucking weird Atari is fucking weird, and they have been fucking weird for a while. But it says PCB revision D. Like, I'm not seeing any chips on the board though. So would you have to burn your own proms and provide those? Because it looks empty. Like, would you have to solder a bunch of stuff to it? Yeah, I think it is just the PCB. So you would move proms, and burning your own proms is a fucking trivial thing these days. If you're dealing with a bunch of old arcade machines, you're burning chips all the time. So yeah, maybe that's the part that makes this less of a big deal, as it is just the PCB. It's easy but illegal. Fucking come find me. I got 5 revisions of Warlords on this hard drive back here. And that's not to count the 2600 version. It's neat. It's fucking weird. Like that is my thing. It's like, what a weird thing. And so they are selling Gravatar, Major Havoc, Black Widow, Lunar Lander, and Warlords. Yeah, I guess, hey, if this is just not a board that is gonna plop into a cabinet and run, that you're gonna have to you would have to do quite a lot of work to put all the fucking everything, every single capacitor, all the other stuff you would have to put on these boards. It would probably take a very long time. But that might be an interesting, maybe that would be an interesting project for someone. If you needed a replacement board. But in terms of getting one of these and hanging on a wall, I don't think it looks that nice, because it doesn't have any of the shit on it. It's just an empty PCB. If it was a fully working board, that would be kind of cool. Either way, what a strange thing for them to sell. And so I have to at least applaud Atari for being fucking crazy. In that specific way. They're also selling t-shirts that have Atari written in katakana on them, which is that's not the word, I mean, they're selling Crystal Castles t-shirts. I would wear a Crystal Castles t-shirt. People would just think it was the band, though. And that's got a dark connotation with it now. Anyway, Mr. Jump and Run is one of those weird old style. Check out how hard it is. Platformers. And it seems okay for what it is. Maybe not at $25, but yeah, we'll probably play some of that this week. And then have you heard of Diablo IV? This kind of also blends into the news. But I have been continuing to play some Diablo 4. They started their season of content. Season 1. People are unhappy. I am unhappy for different reasons than everyone else is unhappy, which I feel like happens more often than you'd think. But people are unhappy. I guess the patch ruined some builds and made the sorcerers and barbarians a little less overpowered, and so they tried to fucking go in and they nerfed some stuff, and people got pissed. I, however, am playing Diablo 4, and my barbarian feels just about as powerful as it always has. I don't know what changed. I did not go over the patch notes to see what the nerfs were and what the fucking deal was, but yes, some players really got effed over by that patch. I have been playing through the season 1 content, and I am extremely dissatisfied by it. I am not happy with what that content is in terms of where I was at with my main character and chipping away at some dungeons I hadn't done, and like, oh, there's more nightmare dungeons I need to do and all this other stuff. And then season 1 comes out. It says, all right, you got to make a new character. I'm like, okay, I don't like that, but I'll do it, whatever. Like off the bat, I'm already kind of not into the whole idea of making a new character when I still have plenty of stuff to do with my main character and whatever else. But the content there it's a lot of it is a fat checklist of like achievement style stuff that's like, clear out 10 cellars, upgrade your potion to minor healing, upgrade a piece of gear to level 3. And as you're checking those things off, that will eventually unlock another chapter that comes with another checklist of achievements. Now, they have put a little bit of story stuff up front, and there's a whole thing like, oh, the malignant hearts. There's some enemies are bad. You know, like the enemies were bad before, and now there are some enemies that are worse. And they will drop a new item called a heart, and the hearts are color coded, and so there are different types of hearts: a devious heart, a brutal heart, and one or two other ones. And then you will have slots on your rings and amulets that can accept a certain type of heart. And so if you have a heart that doesn't fit that, you can't, it's not like the gems that you can just throw everything everywhere. Instead, it's like, oh, well, okay, I have an open socket here, but I don't have a heart that fits it, and there's a process I can go through to maybe find one of those, and blah, 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 blah. And so it's front-loaded with like 2 missions that kind of explain that system a little bit. And then literally the mission you get after that is complete chapter 1 and chapter 2 of your season thing. And so you just look at it and go like, oh, okay, I need to go unlock 5 fast travel points, even though on my main character I was playing on before, I did all that. Some stuff does carry over, but like that is not, like, it reveals the full map, but not the fast travel points. And so you're like, oh, I guess I need to fucking ride my horse around for 10 minutes and unlock fast travel points again to check this off my list. Like, is this engaging gameplay? Is this fun video gaming we're doing now? This thing I literally just did a few weeks ago. And then it's like, you should, you do not have to re-unlock the horse. You keep your horse. If you collected statues in the main game, which give you, bonus to your stats, those statue bonuses come onto your new character. The map is fully revealed when you start a seasonal character, so you don't have to go reveal the map again. And that's almost worse, because then you load it up and look at it and go like, I just need to fucking ride to this point and hit this button, and I need to do that to 5 different checkpoints so that I can check this off my list and then do the next thing. And one of them is like, hit level 25. And you're like, okay, all the side quests reset. You can start at the end of the campaign, but all the side quests are there again. Now, I have not completed every side quest with my main character. And so the idea of like, oh, fuck, like these are quests I did in the beta, in the second round of the beta, during the review process, which is one that a lot of other players will not have done. And then again with my main character, and now am I going to do these? I'm going to go into this basement and fucking help this kid get the demon out of him a 5th motherfucking time? Are you for fucking real? I don't mind the fighting and all the other stuff, but literally like throwing the side quests back into it yet again. Super bizarre to me. I get that like your seasonal content is going to be like, oh, we're gonna, you're gonna be doing some things again. The Diablo 3 endgame was a lot like that. It was a lot of like, hey, we're gonna repackage a lot of things that you saw in the campaign in slightly different ways. I think Diablo 3 did that quite well. I think Diablo 4 so far does that fucking terribly. Terribly. And so being dropped back into this world, having a bunch of stuff reset seemingly arbitrarily, because some of it's there, some of it's not. And I think a really bad way to go. It feels bad. And so I finally got through that, the chapter 1 and chapter 2 checklists of fucking busy work. And then unlocked chapter 3. And in the middle of that, it's like, hey, go back and talk to the guy that told you about hearts because you're going to get another 20 minutes of story stuff here. And you're like, okay. You go there and he's like, it was me. It was my fault. Oh God, I'm such a bad person. And you're like, all right, well, I mean, we're fixing it anyway. So shut the fuck up. And then, you know, you do 2 missions of that. And then he's like, I'm going to get in my cart and go to this other city. And you get another couple of quests that are tied into the storyline of the season, the malignant whatever. And then it's back to fucking checking off shit off your checklist. And all along the way, you're unlocking garbage on a battle pass. The battle pass doesn't have, like, there's a few currency things on the battle pass, but it's not like by the end of it, you're not going to have earned enough currency to buy the next battle pass, which is what some of these things like to do, which is, I don't know, that seems like a nice middle groundish kind of thing of like, oh, if you really play the shit out of the game, you get the next battle pass for free. You're like, okay, well, this is still kind of bad, but all right, whatever. And I've found the battle pass to be absolutely worthless. I know some people are just straight up anti-battle pass no matter what. I will listen and hear out what a battle pass has on it, and so on. I think that Capcom putting literal classic arcade games on their battle pass is kind of fucking rad. It's ridiculous, but it's kind of cool that they did that. I think that there have been some battle passes in games that have been more acceptable than others. This one is a bunch of garbage I have no interest in. It's the primary thing you unlock on the Diablo Battle Pass are cosmetics. And I've said it before, I will say it again. I think that cosmetics in Diablo 4 or in that style of action RPG where your character is seen from above, from a distance, isometric, you are barely ever seeing your character. There's cutscenes and whatever, but like you're just not spending enough time with your character up close for any of that shit to matter. It's like, hey man, look at this sick sword. You're like, I don't care. I so don't like, what's my sword look like? I don't know. I found fucking 20 swords in the last 5 minutes. Who gives a shit? Like, oh, this one's extra shiny. It's got a curve to it because that's the theme of this season. Curved swords. Like, I don't, like, fuck off. It's so nothing. Like the idea of cosmetics in Diablo is like the one cosmetic that I found that I was like, oh, at least I can see it. Is you can get a trophy for your horse that hangs off of its back, like rear haunch. And it's like, it's a skull. And you're like, okay, now my horse has a fucking skull hanging off the back of it. Ooh. And at least you can see that. It's ironic. After all these years, we've come back around and the only good thing in this game is the horse armor. Fucking ridiculous. So, you know, I don't know. I played a lot of Diablo 3 post-campaign. I did a lot of the various things. I forget the cube, right? You would open a portal to a new dungeon and it would just kind of like mash the tile sets together and give you like a fun kind of random engagement to run through and murder. I liked that a lot. That was most of what I did. I was not big on the seasonal stuff in Diablo 3 either, mostly, you know, for the reasons of like, you know, I want to keep building up my character. But now it feels like that there are not good things for me to do with my main character, like the stuff I have left to do. It's like, oh, I could check off these dungeons and unlock the rest of the aspects. There are still some side quests I haven't done. But I rode around and got all the statues and did all that horse shit and you know, whatever. And it doesn't feel like there's much to do with my main character. And the seasonal stuff feels, again, it you know, a lot of it is a checklist. A lot of it is straight up okay. And to its credit, I guess I would say, is if you do things on earlier chapters before it's unlocked, before you unlock chapter 3, if you do some of the things that would check off things in chapter 3, it will count, which is better than not. So when I unlocked the third chapter of the checklist, like 4 things were already done because I had, been doing side quests because you need to level up. And one of the things in chapter 2 is like, hit level 25. And you're like, fuck, all right, I guess I'll go do a bunch of fucking side quests and all this other shit that I just finished doing with my other character again. And yeah, I don't know. That stuff is not super thrilling. I'm quite disappointed with it, I guess I would say. But that is not the reason why everyone else is disappointed. Well, I don't know. Maybe they're disappointed by some of that stuff as well. But generally speaking, a lot of the rage in Diablo 4 world is being directed at the nerfs to, I guess, sorcerers and barbarians. They issued their patch just before the seasonal content hit, and people started complaining like, "Hey, I'm getting fucking rocked all of a sudden. What the hell's going on?" And that brings us into the news. I pushed the button, it didn't go. I pushed the news button, but it didn't play. I'll push it again. There we go. We know it is bad. We know it is not fun. That is what Blizzard has to say about its most recent patch for Diablo 4. Yeah, they had a live stream shortly after the season launched, and according to Eurogamer, who had time to watch the stream, key members of the Diablo 4 team said that they acknowledge everyone's feedback, admitting that whilst the goal was to slow down players blasting through the content, the nerfs had the opposite effect of what the team had intended, which had been to make the game more fun for players. We want to acknowledge everyone's feedback in regard to reducing player power, said community manager Adam Fletcher. We know it is bad. We know it is not fun. We also want to talk about what we were trying to achieve specifically with this patch and with the changes that players ended up seeing. And then separately, we do want to also talk about how we don't plan on doing a patch like this ever again. I think it's, they had the game director there. I was going to say, I think it's a little not great to just like, hey, when there's negative stuff, send the community manager out there. When there's positive stuff, send the leadership out there. But the game director was there for this stream as well as the associate game director. Ultimately, what we're trying to do is make the game more fun for players. The players are at the heart of everything we're doing. And if players can't believe that as the game evolves, the game will get more fun. We're not accomplishing our goals. Yeah, that's about it. Yeah, that's about right. So yeah, I don't know. It sounds like that they had an idea in mind about how long it would take players to get through things, and with the way that those characters, I mean, like this happens in games, right? Where like, oh shit, these characters are too powerful, and we've got to figure that out. Because it takes a lot longer to make new content than it does to tweak some numbers in the opposite direction to make that shit take longer. But, this is a game that they want players to play for years to come. And so they've got to find ways to make sure that that power curve is well represented. And so they kind of knee-jerked their way into this patch, I guess, a little bit. And fucked some players over. And so one of the things they're saying is, hey, if we're going to have to do a big balance shift in the future, which they will, shit happens. They're saying it will occur at predictable times like at the start of a season, which is actually what happened here. They rolled out that patch at the start of season 1. So that's kind of what they did do. And future balance updates will be left to allow some builds to be overpowered until effective alternates can be implemented. Yeah, I don't know. You know, there's a server side nightmare dungeons have been boosted to increase enemy density. A sorcerer and barbarian legendary aspect boost, as well as an additional stash tab, are also on the way, but these won't be available until the next patch hits in the next couple of weeks. So I don't know. Like, it's a bad situation. It's the thing you get when you're making a game. You know, if you would probably patch this eventually, no matter what the game was or what the nature of, like, if this was Diablo 2 and it was not a seasonal game and it was not something where they were selling microtransactions, you would probably still try to have an even balance amongst the characters, because you want the game to have a certain level of challenge to it. You don't want players to completely trivialize the content and just blast their way through it. I get it. Like, but this is one of, I guess, you know, and it's hard for a game like this, but it's one of those philosophical things of just like, it never feels good to fucking make a player less powerful. And games keep doing it. It doesn't stop anyone, you know, like, this is not the first time this has happened. This is, this will happen again, right? But man, you know, you're never gonna win this fight. Like, it always feels like the right way to address this stuff is the hard way, which is you need to make all of the other characters good too, and achieve your balance there, and then make sure you've got enough good content to keep those players engaged, and make the next content harder, or make the next, you know. But, you know, hey, making content is a lot harder than, you know, doing some balance numbers and whatever else. But, you know, the downside to that is if you just keep buffing everyone forever, then power creep is insane to, you know, then you're making it's a pinball problem where suddenly, you know, just like pinball games, all of them score in the millions and billions, and you're like, you got this shot, I got 70 million points. Whereas, you know, 20 years ago it would have been 7,000 or 70,000 or something like that, you know. You end up in that situation. So, you know, no one wants to end up there. So it is, I will sympathize with them in that it is a hard problem to fix when you find yourself in this situation. The other thing I would say is that they ran a live game with Diablo 3 for a good long time. And they should have known that this was going to be a problem and should have maybe nipped it in the bud faster instead of waiting for this patch. Or they could have signaled like, hey, we're seeing some stuff happen here that we're not cool with. These are the changes we're going to make in the future. And, you know, maybe there would have been better. And then they're committing to better messaging about upcoming patches, which I guess is a thing. But, yeah, I don't know. None of this seems like I don't know. None of this seems like it actually fixes the issue. I guess on the other side of this, I didn't see a bunch of players going, oh, well, great. Okay, fine. Finally. It's more just like, okay, yeah, no, you like, did you not know that this was going to fuck things up in a way that made the game less fun? Like, did they know that they were going to have to take their lumps on this one? Because it's like, well, fuck, man, we just had to get the game out. It took forever to get the game out. It's hard. It's hard to ship a game. We shipped it with some fucking bad shit, and we needed to fix that bad shit. And hopefully there won't be any more bad shit down the line. I don't know. Yeah, it's that again, my problem with the content is it has nothing to do with the difficulty or lack thereof, because I'm not in the end game stuff that these players are getting mad about. For me, it is just, I think that seasonal content is terrible. I think it is incredibly weak. It is like, hey, you know, the gem system from the base game, we took that and made a like more annoying color coded version of it, and now there's a process you can go through to get powerful gems, and they'll give you different effects that you were not available in the previous, you know, patch of the, you know, before the season started. But like, I'm looking at those effects, none of them feel, at least the ones that I have access to now, and, you know, obviously they're gonna unlock probably more interesting stuff later, but so far the system doesn't seem worth it. There's nothing engaging about it. There's nothing grabbing me about it. It is like, hey man, do you want to heal a little better? What if when you hit someone with a crit, lightning, which sounds neat, but in practice has not mattered a single bit, is like, what if lightning could jump into the guy that you crit, and then the lightning can chain to other enemies? You're like, okay, that would be cool. I've seen that hit a handful of times and just been like, all right, this is not a difference maker. This doesn't feel like that big of a deal. And at the end of the day, the entire game is fucking so scaled to whatever you really see it when you're starting a new character in the season stuff, because that's you starting a level 1 character that has completed the campaign. And so you're able to do all of this stuff. And you're like, oh, I could go do this. You know, there's some things like strongholds and things that are like, oh, this is a level 40 stronghold. But like, it really, starting a new character also exacerbates the thing where that entire game is scaled to the level of your character. And so you never feel dramatically more powerful than the enemies or less powerful than it's all scaled right to where you're at. And so as long as you're appropriately geared, you will have this percentage of power that is over the average enemy, and you can fucking murder them. And you know, the level scaling didn't really bother me the first time through the campaign, but doing it again and being like, now I'm a level 1 character, and I need to keep picking up all this stuff, but oh man, it's weird. I feel exactly as survivable as I was with my level fucking 60 plus character. Right. Again, I you know, these are not easy problems to solve. And you know, these are the sorts of things that a lot of games have to deal with, because every game is trying to be a game that you play forever now. Lego Maego says, if you have level scaling, you might as well not even have levels in your game. Yeah, well, look, but also players need XP. The numbers need to go up. Like, that's the carrot on the stick. If the level, you know, and when you're initially going through it and you are leveling up and you are building your build, you're picking your skills, you're doing all of this stuff, that's engaging. It gives you, it's like, oh, next level I get to get my ult. But like, that's such a superficial, like immediate, like boom, boom, boom. You are so rocketing through that part of the leveling curve that like you have your abilities, you know, by what, like level 20-ish, 25, whatever, you know, like you knock that shit out right out of the gate. And then, you know, post game, you're in your Paragon levels, and then you're like, oh, I got 4 more Paragon points to spend. And you get in there and you're like, okay, I'm going to spend these, and like, you rarely feel them, I guess is the point, because so many of them are like abstracted in a way that's like, it's +5 strength. You're like, okay, that's cool. You don't feel +5 strength when you're, you know, hitting the guys over and over again. It's not like that's enough on its own for like, oh, this enemy that used to take 2 hits now only takes 1. It's rare that you feel like you get that bonus. It's instead, it's just like, here's 2% to your maximum life. Like, okay. Like, if I pick enough of these off the Paragon board, that does add up. I'm not saying that that's not a real number and that those numbers don't go in the right direction and whatever else. But like, level to level, Paragon point to Paragon point, you don't feel like you have moved your character in a terribly meaningful direction. As opposed to like the relatively seismic shifts that you can feel when you're like, oh, now I have 3 skills instead of 2. Obviously you can't just do that forever. So I don't know, like, it's a hard problem to solve, but I think that it's a problem that probably needs to be addressed a little bit differently in more games, because there are so many games like this now. And, you know, Destiny didn't really, you know, Destiny eventually kind of like moved away from leveling in favor of gear score, and that's an interesting way, I guess, to do it, but it kind of creates a different problem. And then when they just rebuilt all of their build crafting stuff in the last update, or the last few updates, as they kind of went through some of the different subclasses and created even more menus there, it was just like, man, this stuff just sucks now. Like, I don't want to, like, this system is not interesting to engage with, and I don't feel like any of these choices actually matter. Yeah, man, it's I don't know. It's rough, but I don't know. So I was playing Diablo IV, waiting for the season to start and going like, let's see what this season is all about. And now I have seen, I feel like, just about enough of the season that I'm really starting to question how much more of it I'm going to play. There's other games I could be playing. Like, I don't need to do these dumb side quests over and over again. And, you know, in another year or two or what, you know, by the time they have fucking fixed up Diablo 4 and added more content to it and whatever else, like, it'll have more engaging. That was the curve with Diablo 3, right? Like, Diablo 3 at launch compared to where Diablo 3 ended up, obviously a very different thing. I think it's just a bummer that, like, not only, like, it's not that Diablo 4 did not launch with as much stuff as Diablo 3 had at its end game. Like, what, that's not a fair comparison. It's more that, like, in some ways there are aspects of Diablo 4 that feel kind of like they are deliberately ignoring some of the lessons learned over the course of Diablo 3. And then you start to wonder, then you start to back into a different conversation of just like, wow, I wonder how many people that worked on Diablo 3 worked on Diablo 4. I wonder how much retention, Blizzard, because the story over the last handful of years has definitely been people leaving Blizzard. And so was there enough of a brain drain out of there that the people that knew all the lessons from Diablo 3 aren't there anymore? Or who knows, man? We could go compare credit for credit or whatever if you wanted to, but I'm not going to do that. I like Diablo 4, but I don't like it as an ongoing game. I think that's where I'm at with it right now. I had a good time with Diablo 4, and I should stop playing it. Because the more I play of it, the less I like it. And that is how you end up with those dumb fucking, we were talking about last week, the dumb Steam reviews where someone's played a game for 3,000 hours and they're like, I hate this game. Is the more time I spend with Diablo 4, it is souring my perception of the entire game. And I enjoyed it my first time through it. It's even my second time through it because I finished it for review purposes and then played it again with my real character and then was like, oh, right, then the season starts and my real character is useless. I guess that's just how they want to do those games, and that's how they've done them, and whatever. And that's what people say. They're like, well, I guess you didn't play Diablo. It's like, motherfucker, I played a lot of Diablo 3. I just didn't like the season stuff there either. I think it's a bad fucking way to go. I think it's a much more interesting, and this would be hard because you would end up with power creep and everything else, but it is something closer to the way Destiny did things of, no, give me new toys to play with my existing character. Let me take my existing character on new adventures, and hey, now we've added another skill tree, we've added another this, instead of having that character top out and be like, there you go. The idea of taking that character with that gear, with those experiences that I had and through it is, that's what I want to be doing. Cause to me, that is the fucking point of an MMO. And I think that, like, cause you have other people who are like, I guess you don't like MMOs. It's like, these are not MMOs, man. These are not fucking massively multiplayer online role-playing games. These are always online connected action RPGs. You're not going on a fucking 40-man raid. You're gonna go fucking kill the world boss with 6 other dudes that are standing there and go like, all right, I guess we're going our separate ways. Like, it's not a fucking MMO. It's a massive difference. Because every game that has an online connected world now You can't just go like, well, that's an MMO. It's fucking not. You're lost if you think that Diablo 4 is an MMO. If you think that Destiny is just straight up an MMO. Every game is taking lessons and learning from RPGs, from MMOs, from whatever else. We talked about this when we talked a lot about Guild Wars 1 not that long ago, where Guild Wars was one of those first games that took some of the things that MMOs were doing and felt like it was pulling them into a game that you did not have to pay a monthly fee to play, and made sort of a different thing with some of those mechanics. And so, yeah, I don't know. And, you know, any game that is designed for you to be playing for years is not automatically an MMO. You know, just because it has an XP bar and you level up, you know, Call of Duty is not an MMO. Even though they have you can have 100 players. Or is it 200? No, I don't know. Warzone has a lot of players in it. Like that's just a modern video game. It's an always connected world, because if you don't occasionally run into other players, then why would you buy cosmetics so that you can stunt on them? You know, you need to be able to stunt on those players. Anyway. Yeah, I don't know. Diablo 4 is a good game that feels it feels like it is like they're bolting things onto it that are not making it better. I think that's where I'm at with it. And you know, to me, the solution with that for Diablo 3 was to not play it for a long time and then come back to it when, you know, whether it was like Nephilim Rifts and, you know, some of the other stuff that they added that made the game cool for my main character and not just for seasonal characters. So I don't know how you play MMOs when if your argument is well, this is how MMOs are. When I played MMOs, you made alternate characters, but you cared about the one. You're like, this is my main. This is the one, when we go raiding, this is the one this is the one I'm going to use, because this is the one that actually fucking matters. These are the alts that I'm playing between expansions because I need something to do, and I'm paying this monthly fee, and all my friends are still playing this game. Diablo does not have that social draw at all because it's not an MMO. That's not something they've built into the game. What's up with this? Let's crack this open. This is a Rockstar Pure Zero Strawberry Peach. Which I saw recently. I need to kind of loop back around and check out the Rockstar flavors, because I have a feeling that there's been some stuff released that I'm just not aware of, and including this one. I'm a big fan of a lot of the Rockstar flavors. Of course, Fruit Punch is number 1 on our list. Silver Ice is pretty good as well. Strawberry Peach, I feel like these strawberry flavored drinks, we've got a few of them on the list and have not been great. Peach is a real hit or miss kind of flavor. I can smell it from here. I set the can down and I can still smell it. Smelling the peach. Smelling the peach. But up close, I can smell the strawberry. Very weird. Peach at a distance. Strawberry up close. It's very strong. The fruit flavor is very strong in this. all you really get is kind of the tang of a strawberry, and then really it's a very peach forward flavor, but it does not. It's a very mechanical peach. It's not a very honest peach. It's not a very natural peach. It's got a real faux peach. Chemical peach. Not a great peach. Not a great peach flavor here. I'm yeah, not liking it. Especially, you know, I think again a lot of the other Rockstar flavors have been, even their fruit flavors, the tangerine, mescaline, what's the other, the TMSR, the TGMS, that one is a pretty good fruit flavored Rockstar. This is kind of this is like a worse version of that. Let's bring up the list. Let's bring up the list and get this on the list. Oh, dang it. Come on now. All right, where are we at? We have 128 drinks on the list. Let me shorten that up so it all fits on the stream there. Like, this is all right. It's nowhere near as good as the Rockstar Tangerine Mandarin Guava Strawberry, which is a hell of a drink. It's no Rockstar Recovery Orange, that's for damn sure. But I do think it is better than the Pure Zero Watermelon Kiwi, which is another fruity Rockstar blend that I don't think they did a great job with that. I would probably take it over the Ghost Bubblicious, because that didn't really hit well. That drink is fine, but it's not. Oh, I think we kind of dialed it in. I don't mean to do this. I mean for there to be a little more conversation about where it goes on the list. But I feel like a lot of the time I end up just picking the zone where I know where it tops out, and I know where this one tops out. So we're going to type that in: Rockstar Pure Zero Strawberry Peach. And that is going to be our new number 47. It's better than the Rise Fuel Ring Pop Berry Blast, but it is not as good as Bucked Up Energy Gym and Juice. Don't be silly. So congratulations. That's actually not a bad. I mean, considering how long the bottom of this list goes, I actually would say that 47 counts as this drink is fine. Yeah, this drink is acceptable, but certainly not in the pantheon of Rockstar's greatest triumphs. Not even close. Recovery Orange. Now that's a classic. I bought a case of fruit punch because I wanted to treat myself. But then I went to the P.O. box yesterday, and there were 4 cases of drinks in there. Some kind of alternate flavor of Spike, and then 3 other ones. We'll take a look at them tomorrow and see what those are all about. A lot of drinks. In other Blizzard news, Overwatch 2 is coming to Steam. This is something else we were talking about as it relates to Blizzard games coming to other services and coming to Game Pass and all of the other things that they would need to do. On July 19th, Blizzard made the announcement. That's literally Wednesday. I think that might be the day after we talked about this stuff. Overwatch 2 is coming to Steam on August 10th. This seems, so there's a line in here. Not to jump to the end here, but they say, as far as what's next for Blizzard on Steam, we'll be sharing more about potential other games coming to the platform when the time is right. So that to me says that most of their games, if not all of their games, will eventually end up on Steam in one way or another, which would make sense, especially if this acquisition by Microsoft is going through and whatever else. But it especially makes sense when we think about where Overwatch 2 is at. There was recently some additional layoffs in the esports divisions of Activision Blizzard that have there are quotes from people who were laid off basically saying, hey, I don't think they're going to be able to run the Overwatch League anymore unless they, with like the number of people they have left, it seems like they're going to probably have to wind it down or figure something else out because they don't have enough people to fucking do it. And Overwatch League obviously is not been doing all of that great. And so all of that points to a very sizable drop off in interest. And you can see this, I think, anywhere that you see anyone talking about Overwatch, that there's just been a long, slow decline for the franchise. Overwatch 2 kind of put its name back out there again, and then everyone has been souring on it more and more as Blizzard has been canceling the features that they claimed were the reason they needed to launch an Overwatch 2 in the first place. They find themselves in a situation where there's just not nearly enough interest in Overwatch 2. And so what do? You take your free-to-play game, you roll it out on Steam. You put it in front of an even larger player base. You force them, you stop forcing them to download the Battle.net client to get it. You're like, fuck it. Like, let's get this in front of more people. Makes total sense. It makes perfect sense. Again, for Overwatch 2 as a free-to-play game, you want that free-to-play game to be in front of as many people as possible. And to do that, you put it on Steam. So it's only mildly surprising, I guess I would say. Like, not a huge surprise. There's a quote here from Mike Ybarra, who's the president of Blizzard, in case you forgot. It's our goal at Blizzard to listen to players and try to exceed their expectations in everything we do. Look, I am not trying to be a jerk here, but before we go on to the rest of this quote, that's their goal. Do you feel how close to that goal do you feel Blizzard has been getting lately over the last 12 months or so? Their goal is to listen to players and try to exceed their expectations in everything they do. I'm removed from this a little bit because I'm not an Overwatch fan. I'm not a fucking Heroes of the Storm player. I don't care about Hearthstone. Like, Blizzard's games are not that interesting to, they're interesting. That's not, I am not a fan of most of Blizzard's games. I recognize their power. When Blizzard has a game that hits, I think it hits hard. But it's so I am not the target audience that has those expectations. So I'm really just kind of asking the question here. Do you think that Blizzard is meeting its goal of listening to players and trying to exceed their expectations in everything? Trying to exceed their expectations is a pretty nebulous goal. Well, we tried. Rusty Ventura in the chat says Blizzard coasts on goodwill too much. Yeah, I think that Blizzard, it happens, right? You get a brand out there that gets established as one thing and overachieves, and Blizzard certainly is, it's a legendary name in game development. I don't want to take that away, but we talked for a while about like, boy, it sure does feel like Activision got their hooks into Blizzard pretty deep about a handful of years ago, huh? And some of that talk was because we were talking to people at Blizzard that were saying, man, fucking Activision is fucking up our ass a lot more than they were last year. Like they are, like the fucking honeymoon is over. The people in place at Blizzard who were the longtime Blizzard leadership, who were there that could stave off or at least be the middleman and say like, oh, Activision needs this. We're going to translate it into a way that doesn't necessarily piss off everyone that works here. Those people all left. They're all gone. It's how acquisitions work. You get a thing that is built by a bunch of incredibly passionate people and they try to build the best thing they can. It ends up selling, whether that's a hugely successful sale or we got to sell this thing or it's getting shut down. It ends up selling. The founders and the people that really cared about it filter their way out over the years, and then you're left with a weird husk. And you're just like, why does this thing exist anymore? Why does this thing need to be around? Like, it should probably just be rolled into the parent thing. Like, this should probably just be Activision at this point, right? Like, there's no reason for it to exist as a separate brand other than coasting on that goodwill. And so I don't, this is, that's, it's shitty because I'm sure that there are a lot of fucking people at Blizzard working fucking hard as hell to try to meet these goals that are trying to, no one's there trying to make a shit game. No one's there trying to fucking go like, well, turn these numbers down on Diablo, and I gotta get to the bar. I gotta get home. I gotta get home and get to bed. No one's trying to fucking make shit. And that's harsh. Diablo 4 is not shit. But look, it's a natural way of things. It's why, and there are now multiple studios out there, multiple outfits out there of people made up of former Blizzard people. Frost Giant and some of the other studios that are out there trying to do their thing. And so you hope that spirit kind of resets itself. It's why, all this talk about acquisition and everything else, consolidation in the video game industry, blah, 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 doesn't really bother me all that much because in a lot of cases that creates money for some of those people to go out and start their own studios. And the cycle begins anew, and those studios make big things and they get invested in, now it's just Tencent buying everything. But, the studios start up new things and they're like, hey, we're a bunch of ex-Blizzard guys that are making this. And you're like, cool, man, that's great. And then they get bought by somebody and you're like, all right, well, this hopefully this cycle just perpetuates. And now a different tier of people at the company, because it's a smaller company, another tier up get paid. Respawn is a great example of this. Ready, Set, Victory brings that up in the chat. Like Vince Zampella, had already done this with Infinity Ward, and then was able to go start Respawn, bring a bunch of people along, people that were a little lower on the totem pole at Infinity Ward, maybe were a little bit higher up at Respawn, and it puts them a little bit closer to the money when Respawn sells to EA. And so you have people that were, that worked their way up through those things. And now they are like, okay, we got a little bit of a payout on this EA buy. And so we're going to work out our contract and then fuck it. Let's go build something crazy. And then they go off and build something crazy with an even smaller team of people that are a little bit closer to the money. If that studio gets sold and blah, blah, blah. And the cycle begins anew until capitalism caves in and all fucking blows up. But hey, for now, we'll see how it all goes. Anyway, we're hugely sidetracked here. Blizzard is bringing Overwatch 2 to Steam. Mikey Barr also goes on to say, while Battle.net remains a priority for us now and into the future, we've heard players want the choice of Steam for a selection of our games, starting with Overwatch 2 on August 10th. We're happy to work with Valve to make that happen. Gabe Newell of Valve and Knife fame goes on to say, gamers and developers are both going to benefit from Overwatch 2 coming to Steam. Gamers will have another platform where they can play a beloved game that utilizes the capabilities of Steam, and developers will benefit from the effects of having the talented team at Blizzard helping us evolve our supported features and functionality for Overwatch 2. So, is that a situation where, you know, I don't know enough about Steamworks and what they would need to add to Steamworks other than some kind of shim that lets you connect your Battle.net account to know how Overwatch 2 coming to Steam benefits a larger array of developers, but I'm not going to call Gabe Newell a liar. He'll show up and he'll show up and be like, I heard you were talking shit. Oh, God. He's eviscerated. I've never met Gabe Newell. I'm sure he's I'm sure he's not stabbing people on the reg anyway. By all accounts, he sounds like a fun guy. Stern, at times, and fucking blunt and hard to work for, and so depending on the situation. But hey, who isn't? As a free-to-play team-based game, we believe Overwatch 2 is the perfect title for Blizzard's debut on the platform. Overwatch 2's presence on Steam is in addition to Battle.net, so the incredible community already accessing the game through Battle.net can play as they have with no changes required. Players on Steam will still need to connect Overwatch 2 to a Battle.net account, as we require for all platforms, which enables cross-platform play and more. Players using Steam will have access to Steam achievements, Steam friends list, the ability to invite them to play in-game. We're excited to see the response from the Overwatch community, for both veteran players and new ones who come on board through Steam, and we're looking forward to hearing their feedback. So there's an Overwatch 2 page up on Steam now. You can go wishlist it. Really helps the devs, these indie devs. You go wishlist Overwatch 2. So, once the pieces in place, and again, I don't know anything about Blizzard's tech, but I have to imagine once the pieces in place to allow Battle.net, and I should have thought of this when we were discussing what it would take to bring Battle.net games to Game Pass or to the Xbox app or whatever else, is that's work they're already doing for the console versions of these games. Like Diablo IV already has to launch with an interface for connecting a Battle.net account to a platform ID. And so it seems like that work would be very similar when it comes to making the game work on Steam. You just have to provide something in there that will let you tie your Battle.net account to your Steam account, or let you create a Battle.net ID the first time you launch Overwatch 2 on Steam if you don't already have one. And you kind of go from there. I wonder what the percentage of players are active Battle.net users that only have it installed specifically for Overwatch 2. And I wonder if this leads to some uninstalls of the Battle.net client, or rather how many uninstalls of the Battle.net client that will lead to. Because it's a free-to-play game. Presumably, if you log in with your Blizzard ID, all your shit is just going to come over, right? I mean, anything you purchased, or I'm sure that all of that stuff will just come in. Because I think they do cross purchase on console. I don't remember off the top of my head, but and you wonder, like, will they make a shim style skinny client version of the Battle.net client that only handles, that's what, like some of the EA stuff, it'll be like if you launch an EA game on Steam, it'll pop up the EA app, but it won't have any of the storefront stuff in it. Ubisoft games still launch the Uplay client in a weird broken way. And whatever else. So, there's definitely other things to look at that you can kind of get an indication of how this might work. And so I look at this as kind of all right, here we go. If they want to drive people to the Battle.net client, then they will leave it in there. Then they will make it something that launches when you launch it, because that's the reason. I suspect that's the reason EA does it. EA could just have a one-time tie-up that never shows you the EA client again, but instead they would love to show you the EA client and be like, what if you bought games over here? Or subscribed to EA Play Pro or whatever else you're going to do. What if you just did that? I wonder what ends up being next. I assume the answer is everything, with the potential exception of a subscription-based game like World of Warcraft. Okay. Chobel says Blizzard has said on Twitter that it will not open the Battle.net client through Steam. Okay, good. That I think is the right way to do it. So that means the first time you launch it, if you don't already have a Battle.net account, or even if you do, it'll probably pop up a thing saying, create a Battle.net ID. And maybe even do it without you requiring a login and password. They will just know you by your Steam ID. Maybe they'll even add login through Steam to the Battle.net client for people that start their Battle.net account on Steam, but they're like, oh man, but what if they come over here and want to play World of Warcraft or want to buy any of one of our other games? We sure would like to make it easy for them to come over here and buy our games. There's work they could do there if they really wanted to, too. It's just, I don't know how valuable that work would be, but there's stuff they could do. Anyway, there's no downside to this other than cutting Steam in on some of your PC money, right? Like they're already cutting in Sony and Microsoft and I guess Nintendo, right? For Overwatch money on console. So this is really just like, hey, maybe Steam is going to take 30% of our microtransaction money if it ends up getting purchased here or however that works. But that sounds like a chance worth taking because you should, that puts you in front of millions of more players. So ostensibly it's worth it. It makes it up. You make it up in volume. That's how all business works. Volume. Like the change bank. So we'll see how this does for them. Does this lead to a short-term spike and then people go like, oh, right, Overwatch, and then they never play it again or what? But we'll see. And yeah, this is something that, again, I think would have happened anyway after the Microsoft purchase. That because since all of Microsoft stuff is already on Steam and the Bethesda client kind of went, like the way that a lot of that stuff has gone, I think that these games would have ended up on Steam one way or the other. So no harm in getting out ahead of it and just doing it now. And then we'll see what happens if it ever comes to an Xbox client or someday, because I assume if it makes its way to Game Pass, which again, it's a free-to-play game, so it's kind of a weird distinction, but if all the Blizzard games make their way onto the Xbox app, then we'll see. Or Ashley in the chat says, or does Game Pass come to Battle.net? Probably not. I don't mind the Battle.net client, and I think the Battle.net client probably has a better reputation than the Xbox app does on Windows. But that is a question that, I wonder if they would at least ask it, or if that's a weird political thing of trying to tell the internal team that their client sucks. And being like, hey, we just bought the Battle.net client. We're going to move all our game shit over there. Because this sucks. But I don't know. The Xbox app has never been... I've never had a problem with it. I just hear people complain about it all the time. All the way down to like, I can't play any of these games. They won't install right for me. And I was like, all right, that has not been my experience with it at all. But that sucks. So... yeah, I don't know. We'll see how it all goes, but this is work that they were probably gonna have to do anyway. So August 10th, Overwatch on Steam. Makes sense. Techland is in the news. Exciting news that will mark the start of a new chapter in Techland's history is how they have framed up this this article that they have posted to their website. The long and short of it is that Tencent is becoming the majority investor, majority shareholder in Tencent. They have said that as, today I am happy to announce the partnership with Tencent, who are in the process of becoming Techland's majority shareholder. Just when you thought Tencent was going to slow down and not acquire as much because the economy was weird, Tencent is back, baby. They saw the Embracer Group fucking stutter step. They saw the Embracer Group go and went, oh yeah, it's on. Now they're back in the game buying stuff. Teaming up with Tencent will allow us to move full speed ahead with the execution of the vision for our games. We have chosen an ally who has already partnered with some of the world's finest video game companies and helped them reach new heights while respecting their ways of doing things. We will retain full ownership of our IPs, maintain creative freedom, and continue to operate the way we believe is right. I'm also going to continue serving as the studio's CEO. So not a full-on acquisition. They're just going to become the majority shareholder, which is, kind of a minor distinction, I suppose. But there we go. Let's see if there's anything. Yeah, we dream of turning Dying Light. Man, Dying Light. We dream of turning Dying Light into the ultimate zombie game experience for players worldwide, providing you with multiple astonishing adventures and pushing the boundaries of solo and online modes to a totally new level. And so they're framing it up as like the only way they can achieve their goals is if they have a lot more money to do it with. And so here comes Tencent. Dying Light. When Dying Light 1 came out, I remember being incredibly impressed with how long they supported that game and the level of support it received. It wasn't like trivial stuff. They were making like good, meaningful upgrades and add-ons to that game for a long time, and that game was really great out of the gate. Like bumpy. Some stuff about it that you're like, this could be a little bit better, but like for the start of a new franchise, and it's not Dead Island, it's like for where they were starting from with Dying Light 1, I think they fucking crushed it. And Dying Light 2 feels like a game that came out and vanished, and I don't see any, Dying Light 1 felt like it lingered longer. I don't know if it was the pace of the updates kept people talking about it a little bit longer, or what the actual situation was there, but I feel like Dying Light 2, Dying Light 2 came out, and I think the read on it generally, not necessarily just my read on it, was like, this starts too slow. It doesn't feel like they learned everything they needed to learn out of Dying Light 1. Like there's still stuff there that probably just needed to be a little bit better than it was. And, the way that game ended up working, it just was not better enough than the first game, I guess. And so, yeah, like it feels like a game that really came and went. Not to say it's a bad game, but I do feel like the slow start on it from a movement perspective and how long you had to play to get like the good, fun movement upgrades that made that game at least cool, if not great. I don't know. It was maybe never going to be great, but like, at least make the movement feel good the way it felt in Dying Light 1, or better than. It just took too long. And yeah, I don't know. I did not. I put, gosh, probably 6 or 7 hours into Dying Light 2, which I know is not, that's not the full campaign, obviously, but like I reached a point with it where I was like, I'm just not enjoying this enough, and I do not want to have to. It feels like instead of getting like fun, weird upgrades, I am instead spending most of my upgrade points on things that should have been there from the get-go. And yeah, I don't know. That stuff, frustrating. So we'll see. I don't know. If I can't imagine that they're just going to take 10 cents money and funnel it into Dying Light 2 upgrades. Surely they have more to do. Another game in the works, perhaps. We'll see. But, best of luck to them through that whole process. Comic-Con happened over the weekend. Not a lot of news out of there, obviously, since a lot of actors and, writers and everything were on strike. So the whole, see a bunch of celebrities saying shit about movies was not there, which actually sounds kind of exciting to maybe refocus it more on actual fucking comic books. But whatever. I've never been to Comic-Con. It's never seemed like my kind of show. But it does occasionally have some video game news, less than it used to. There was a while there that the video game industry was really pushing to try to make Comic-Con a thing. A bigger thing, I guess. Kind of a post E3 pre-Gamescom thing. And then I think they realized, like, we don't actually need that. Turns out we don't need a post E3 pre-Gamescom news beat. But when it all lines up and makes sense, it is still a place to announce video game news, such as new characters for Mortal Kombat 1. I just want to go to San Diego. I just want to go see Aaron Trites. I don't need a Comic-Con for that. There's a few people I know in San Diego that I would like to see. That has nothing to do with Comic-Con. Anyway, Ed Boon was there to discuss some of the new characters, or to basically confirm some of the leaks of characters from Mortal Kombat 1. They put out a couple of new trailers, one focused on some additional announcements for new characters, and then one confirming the leaked DLC Season Pass, Combat Pack 1, whatever you want to call it, which has a bunch of comic book dudes in it. Or I guess comic book TV show and movie dudes, not necessarily just straight up comic book dudes. Anyway, Tanya and Lee May will be in the game. We had heard multiple times now that they were going to dig deeper into that kind of PS2 and Xbox era of Mortal Kombat, and here we are. Darius shows up as a cameo fighter. Chameleon with the lady Chameleon from Armageddon, not the Mortal Kombat trilogy weird Chameleon from N64 and PlayStation 1, is in there, I believe, as a cameo. Baraka will be in the game. They have reframed Baraka's, at times the Tarkatans have been a race, and now instead they are framing them as disease-ridden humans inflicted with something called the Tarkat, which is what disfigures humans and makes them grow gigantic fangs and become weird beasts. So that's part of the reboot. The reboot timeline, the lineage is that's an affliction that makes them get I guess according to the trailer, they eventually lose control and become bloodthirsty monsters. Let's see. That's and then so that's your kind of playable character type stuff. They confirmed all the leaks from the combat pack. That includes Takeda, Ermac, and Quan Chi as playable characters, as well as Omni-Man, Homelander, Call of Duty's Homelander, if you're keeping score, and Peacemaker, which is John Cena. So John Cena is coming to Mortal Kombat 1, which would be very exciting if it was just John Cena is coming. But people liked Peacemaker. I'm not gonna, whatever. Maybe those characters will be interesting. The bonus characters in the Mortal Kombat games have always just been kind of like, I don't know. Except for when they did just straight up Injustice characters, when they were just like, oh, well, we're putting Joker in, like characters that we've already made all these fighting game moves for. Like that's been good. But I don't know. I like the idea. On paper, when you tell me we're putting RoboCop in our Mortal Kombat game, I say that's fucking outstanding. And I would like to see that once, twice. I would like to watch those fatalities. Look at that. It's Ed 209. We're having a great time. But like, I just, I'm just not enough of a fan of these particular characters to really get amped about it one way or the other. And so instead, I just think like, man, what if instead they put John Cena in there, and you could have like different eras of John Cena. You know, your Doctor of Thugonomics era John Cena, your military, your like stolen valor. I was in a movie called The Marine, and now I salute when I walk to the ring. John Cena. John Cena wearing the NWO shirt from that match with, oh man, yeah, there's a whole thing they could do. Oh yes, Bing Chilling John Cena, yes. Just one variant of John Cena that only speaks Chinese, only speaks Mandarin. AI has been in the news again. Yes, you heard. And Total Divas John Cena, and he's wearing a different color suit every time he comes out there. Have you heard about this artificial intelligence? It's infallible. It's great, man. These machines are doing all the fucking work for us. I don't have to write news stories about video games anymore because the computers are doing it. And like, what's going on? John Cena's going in the video game? Great. We're on top of that. Some motherfuckers on Reddit decided to put that to the test, and so someone posted to the World of Warcraft subreddit a post titled, "I'm so excited they finally introduced Glorbo," and then went on to write a thing saying like, I have to say, since they started hinting at it in Hearthstone in 1994, it was obvious they would introduce Glorbo to World of Warcraft sooner or later. And just wrote a very quick little excited thing on Reddit about a character that doesn't exist named Glorbo. And then a site called The Portal, published by, this is according to Polygon, who has recapped this fucking mess, seemingly a robot wrote an article for this site called The Portal, headlined, "World of Warcraft players excited for Glorbo's introduction," with a byline by someone named Lucy Reed, who that name appeared on over 100 articles on that one day. Is Lucy Reed a real person? You be the judge. It's certainly not out of, this is but this is more text. This is more text than a person. If a person was writing 100 of these, it would be maybe hard to do. But the nature of the article is so fucking, and they took the article down, so there's an archived version of it floating around. World of Warcraft players have been buzzing with excitement ever since the announcement of Glorbo's introduction. The highly anticipated new feature has sparked a wave of positive sentiment among players who are eagerly awaiting its impact on the game. Key takeaways, and then a bunch of bullet points. Players express excitement for Glorbo's arrival and its potential impact on the game. 2. Some players have reservations about the mandatory item Click-Clack and its effect on casual players. 3. Rumors of Stormsong Valley becoming the new location for the Half Hill Market and farming sim minigame generate enthusiasm. And 4. Appreciation for previous game changes, such as the inclusion of Klaxi as a playable race. Glorbo's impact on the game. World of Warcraft, every time this machine writes out World of Warcraft, they put WoW in parentheses after it. World of Warcraft, WoW. Players are eagerly anticipating Glorbo's introduction and the potential impact it will have on the game. Reddit user Kafer Kriegerin, which I think that's the person that initially posted this hoax, expresses their excitement, stating, "Honestly, this new feature makes me so happy. I just really want some major bot-operated news websites to publish an article about this." This sentiment is echoed by many other players in the comments who eagerly anticipate the changes Glorbo will bring to the game. However, not all players share the same level of enthusiasm. Reddit user Tensem expresses concern about Glorbo being overpowered and accuses Blizzard of being inconsiderate towards non-Glorbo players. This sentiment is countered by players like Wooms, who appreciate Glorbo's backstory and the impact. So it's basically like a robot designed to recap Reddit conversations and package it up as news. And that's fucking crazy. It's not, like the technology is there. The technology has been there for a long time. This isn't, this is something that's gotten better with the result of all these language learning models, your Chat GPT and whatever else. But you've all ended up on the fucking bullshit websites. Like the recipe searches were always the ones that were the good, easy thing to point out, where every recipe article would be couched within like 6 paragraphs of bullshit text that clearly were not written by a human, that were clearly pasted in from somewhere else and generated at some level. To be like, my grandmother used to make this blah blah blah, because it needed to be because Google was weighting longer pages as more informative and meatier and a higher page rank. And so if you just had a page that was efficient and just said, here's your recipe, no one was ever going to find it, because Google was never going to serve it. So as a way of this is just the next level of people gaming Google. And so it's hilarious. It's sad. Like, it's hilarious. You see this and you just go like, fuck, man. It was so easy for them to post a fucking thing to Reddit with a fake information about World of Warcraft that then, it got picked only by one site, which is maybe that's the more shocking part, is that they only found one site that was doing this. And so the internet is fucked. This isn't like this is a great example, and this stuff will improve, I suppose, right? Like they will find checks and balances to improve these algorithms, to make sure that they're getting something that's closer to the truth. But a lot of stuff like this doesn't care about the truth. They care about generating a page that people will find in search and that Google will reward. And so increasingly, and this has been the case for years, it's not an AI problem, it's an internet problem. Increasingly, the pressure is on Google to actually be a useful search engine for humans. But instead, Google is investing in its own AI technology, and Google is going to fucking have AI recaps of, like, we will eventually end up in a situation where Google will just have an AI generated recap of this fake article, and it will be one step even further removed from, the truth or whatever. And so, all of the layoffs, it's the most short-sighted thing to see happening, but like also the internet is built in such a way. The people that are laying off actual writers in favor of AI generated text are under this weird assumption that like the internet is honest, and that information you scrape off the internet is automatically legit and valuable and worth reporting. And I think we all know that that has not ever been the case in a blanket way. And so, like, if you think about it long term, which none of them are, right? They're just like, well, next quarter we got to do this, so we got to fire everybody. If you do not have humans that are being like put in place to generate factual articles, where is the AI going to get the information from to rip off? Like, like if you're going to deploy an AI to write video game news, let's say something as benign as video game news, you are counting on there being good, high quality sources of video game news out there to crib from. Otherwise, what the fuck are the models going to train on? What are they going to pull from for those facts? It's like they're assuming that all the world's knowledge is already known. And they're just like, well, whatever, we're done. And some of that will come from press releases. Sure. You can, like the time-honored tradition of having a person in place rewriting a press release as a news story. It sucks, but like I also think that having a human being take a press release and condense it down, but not condense it down to the 2 sentences that matter, instead condense it down to 4 paragraphs instead of 6, because Google needs a page that looks like a real page in order for SEO to, like, the humans were already in place trying to fucking please the machines. It was just slightly different machines. So on some level, I don't think that, the time-honored tradition of rewriting a press release into a news story, I think should be eliminated. I think that that's something that you either just take the press release and you post it, or what I always wanted to do with news, was you would take those things and you would boil them down to the 2 sentences that matter. And that's not something that SEOs well. That's not something that is good for machines, but it was good for people. And the hope was that you would build a thing that would attract people who are sick of the bullshit and do not have fucking time to dick around with a bunch of fucking rewritten press releases that have like recaps of like, if you don't remember, this game is an action shooter, that this, and here's 5 more keywords and buzzwords to make sure that Google notices this page. No, they announced a release date. Don't write a headline that says release date announced for game. Write a headline that says fucking Starfield is out September 6th. And that's it. What happens when you click on it? Nothing. Because that's all you fucking need. As you might imagine, my idea of a news feed for humans instead of machines was not something that anyone was ever interested in really implementing, no matter how many different times I tried to repackage it. At various times, I said, like, well, you still want to have comments on it, and so really what we're building is a fucking Reddit for video games, which Destructoid tried that. I don't think that went well for them. I don't think they're still doing it. But I know at some point they built a user-voted news fucking feed thing. And so at that point, it's like, okay, so what if we just did this and it was only for subscribers, and that's how you mitigate it? You're like, okay, if you want to not see the machine feed, then you need to pay. And it's like, that's a shitty way to go, but like, sure, I guess it makes sense. It just sucks that, finding ways to subsidize actual useful coverage and content is like the actual hard part. A way more curated Reddit sounds like it could be okay. Yeah, so I've been, in the wake of Reddit fucking going south, and really I'm not a big Reddit fan to begin with. I've been looking at like Lemmy and Kbin, which are Reddit alternatives made on ActivityPub, which is what powers Mastodon and those sorts of things. And so people like we could, if you wanted to, we could go. I could go fucking set up a server right now running Kbin, and we could have our own private Reddit. I just don't think anyone would use it. I don't think enough people would use it for it to be good. Tell me if you think I'm wrong. But at that point, yeah, we're making a message board. And we already have a Discord. Which if you wanted the Discord, head over to patreon.com/Jeff Gerstmann. You can find out more details on how you can get an ad-free podcast. And some bonus shows and some cool shit like that. Head on over. Check it out. But yeah, it's a fucking weird. Yeah, I don't know. It's the most slow motion sad car crash, and to watch these executives fall for, like, this is the. It's like when Facebook said you should do more video stuff because that's what we value and that's what we'll serve more of, and then turns out they were lying about all the ad money the entire time. This is the equivalent of the pivot to video, except for text. It's the pivot to text, except the text isn't written by humans. And I think there are situations where you could probably employ that sort of technology. Like I said, having an actual human rewriting press releases into news stories does not seem like a great use of time. Because you could have those people playing games and putting out videos and doing more substantial content instead of just cranking out fucking press release rewrites 5 a day, every day. So I don't look at it as like, and this is the difference between me and the fucking business people, is I don't look at that as something that steals jobs. I look at that as something that is like, that shouldn't be someone's job. We should take that person and put them on something actually more useful and actually better content wise. And the robots can have that stuff because we're getting it here. And I need as many people as I can get over here. So I don't want to waste someone over here on rewriting fucking press releases. That's valuable up to a point, but like, God damn it, man. But obviously, that's not how that's not how it ever works out. So congratulations to Glorbo. We're really looking forward, and you know, the end result of this, I think you can call it at this point. You know, we'll get to April, or maybe they'll just do it sooner to capitalize on it. But I think Glorbo's going into World of Warcraft, right? Like, this is, if Blizzard has a legacy fun bone left in their body over there on the World of Warcraft team, they will put Glorbo in that game, whether that's their next April Fool's joke or what. You will see Glorbo. There will be Glorbo. Ubisoft found itself getting a lot of very sudden heat that they have then tried to clarify around deleting accounts, deleting Ubisoft accounts. This all started because someone on Twitter said that they got an email from Ubisoft. This is according to videogameschronicle.com. They received an email from Ubisoft warning that they should not click a link. Warning that that they need to click a link in an email or their account will be deleted, including all purchased games. After a certain period, that account would go inaccessible. And so Ubisoft on Twitter said, we just wanted to chime in that you can avoid the account closure by logging into your account within 30 days since receiving the email pictured and selecting the cancel account closure link contained in the email. This, of course, blew up into people saying, see, Ubisoft is deleting your accounts. They're deleting your games. You purchased your games, and now they're deleting them. You don't own your games. You do not own your games. Ubisoft followed up to say that this was because of GDPR regulations, that's the global data, blah, blah, blah. The GDPR is one of those internet policies that, like, is good because it protects users and gives them more options for privacy than they would have otherwise. But on the other end of it, as someone who had to run a website and then deal with all the GDPR shit all of a sudden, it fucking sucked to suddenly have to be like, wait a minute, okay, so we have to figure out a way for people to delete their accounts. What does that mean for all the content they've contributed over the years? If they have forum posts that they want deleted, that they have this they want deleted, like it's annoying on that end of things. But again, like, you know, people should have the right to privacy online, and people should have the right to more privacy online than they have right now. But it is a gigantic pain in the ass. And so this is something that presumably Ubisoft found themselves up against and were probably like, fuck. All right, because of GDPR regulations, accounts that go dormant for a fucking insane long period of time eventually have to be fucking shut down. And the data has to be released. We cannot keep that customer data if they're not an active customer. I'm sure, I don't know what the exact regulation is, but like, I had to hear about enough GDPR bullshit over the years that I'm sure that there's something like that in there. And so, of course, this exploded into people going like, Ubisoft is deleting your games. The games you bought from them, they're deleting. Fuck you. This is the worst thing in the world. Oh my God. And so, no, that's not actually how it's going. Though Ubisoft trying to clarify to say, just click the link and then we won't delete your account, did not help. So, The Verge has the follow-up on this, as Ubisoft has clarified their position on this, because they had previously said that there are things in place that will prevent an account from being flagged for deletion. And Ubisoft has told The Verge, okay, so the terms of use that Ubisoft maintains say that if users have not signed in for 6 months, they can delete users' accounts. And so this is the statement given to The Verge. I'll just read it pretty much in full here that Ubisoft gave them. For many years now, we have implemented our account deletion process in compliance with the requirements of GDPR Article 5.1.e on the obligation to limit the data retention period. Yeah, data retention is a big one of those. Our policies are aligned with legal requirements and with the standards of the industry. This measure also acts as a protection for our players against fraud. Which, yeah, if you have an account that's just sitting there dormant with an old password on it, blah, blah, blah. And I don't think they were actually deleting 6-month-old accounts, because that's in their terms of use. But I don't think anyone got their account deleted after 6 months. Anyway, going on. Account deletion follows a very strict process. As such, we take into consideration the 4 following criteria before an account is deleted. Number 1, the gaming activity of the account since its creation. Number 2, the account's libraries. Accounts that include purchased PC games are not eligible for deletion. So if you own a Ubisoft game through their storefront, they will not delete your account. Period. Number 3, the duration of inactivity of the account, meaning the last login to our ecosystem, including from Ubisoft games on Steam and other platforms. Chrononaut asks, then what would your account even be for? They have their reward thing, your in-game points or Uplay points or whatever. When you go to play a Ubisoft game on consoles, you still are creating a Ubisoft account. It just doesn't have any purchases associated with it. In practice, as of today, we have never deleted accounts that have been inactive for less than 4 years. And the 4th criteria, the existence of an active subscription tied to the account. So if you're actively paying them for Uplay Plus, I mean, hey, big surprise. If you're giving Ubisoft money on a regular basis, they're not going to delete your account. In any case, before the deletion is permanent, 3 emails are sent to the player over a 30-day period offering to restore their account. In addition, if the user tries to log in during the 30-day window, they will automatically receive a warning and a link to reactivate their account. PC World ran a story in 2021 about a user who was inactive for 2 years and found his account missing games. And back then, Ubisoft said it would reach out to the player to rectify the situation. But yeah, I don't know. This blew up big over the weekend, and it's fucking nothing. It's a bunch of like legal regulations that they have to fucking adhere to. The same way we had to have we had to invent data retention policies and all this other shit that like we never had to deal with. Again, the GDPR by and large is good for you as a person out there on the internet. It is only upheld in Europe, but by and large, it is easier for a lot of places to just roll out the same policies worldwide instead of just in Europe. But yes, data retention policies where they have to delete your data after a certain amount of time, so they're not keeping your fucking old email address around waiting for it to be fucking hacked. You want that. You want the accounts that you don't use anymore to eventually fucking go away. I can think of a ton of fucking shirts, sites that sell fucking bullshit t-shirts and fucking headphones, and you have to fucking sign up for, that still have my fucking data. I have fucking 3 different things, not on purpose, but like one on purpose, and then the other ones that just come with other services that are like, your email was found on the dark web. And it's always become some fucking ancient website got fucking hacked somewhere. And they still had some fucking customer database from fucking 2009. And it sucks. So by and large, the policies put in place by GDPR are good for you as a person. Speaking as a person who had to, was in charge of running a website with other people in different departments and so on and so forth, we had a lot of fucking bullshit GDPR stuff that we had to fucking account for when that came up. And other, stuff in a similar nature for, when California rolled out some similar stuff. There's just like fucking pain in the ass. Like your age gate has to be built a certain way to be legal. There's just a ton of fucking shit. And so it's not surprising that Ubisoft would also have to abide by those same restrictions. But again, their policy, and that's not to say that their policy that they don't make a mistake occasionally, as apparently they did back in 2021. But the goal is to never delete any account that has actual purchases on it. So people flipping out about this, about like, they're stealing our video games, they're shutting down the stores, digital purchases, they're the devil. Like, it's like, yeah, I mean, yes, but not for any of the reasons why you're citing. So it's a big nothing of a story. But I'm glad we went through the exercise nonetheless. Anyone you see out there posting content about how enraged they are about Ubisoft deletions, especially after this Verge story went up clarifying their position, is, well, they're making content for the robots. What else is going on? Speaking of robots, speaking of our fucking hellacious future, the ESRB is proposing facial recognition as a new form of age verification. That's according to GameDeveloper.com. The ESRB, if you remember, is the ratings organization that puts the ratings on boxes of games. They are also controlled by the ESA, who you may remember as the company that leaked all of the E3 press information and could not maintain people's privacy. And now they're saying they would love to have a copy of your face in a database somewhere. Hooray. This is a proposal that they have issued to the Federal Trade Commission looking to get this technology approved in a way that seems like they want to be the ones that run it. And this is a weird one. The proposal is made in conjunction with a digital identity firm called Yoti and a subsidiary of Epic Games called Super Awesome. And they are looking to do facial recognition, to kind of, I guess, do age verification. The proposal says that they're using age estimation to offer parents an easy way to provide VPC through a quick process without needing to provide extensive personal information in line with the data minimization principles. So again, this is kind of similar to the GDPR in terms of privacy. Like they are citing one privacy thing while waving in front of your face one that I personally think is way worse. And they're saying, hey, what if we didn't have to collect a bunch of data from you other than your face? And I'm like, no, that's actually worse. That's actually worse, guys. And so GameDeveloper.com frames this as, to buy a game, a user would have to take a picture of their face right at that moment to submit for verification. Photos that don't meet the required quality would be rejected, while accepted photos are submitted to Yodi's backend for age estimation. So basically, like, it's not like comparing to your face to make sure it's you. It's more of a, is this face old enough? The idea being you would take it with a depth sensing camera like your phone, so it would not be you just submitting a photo, a fake photo, or whatever. There are a lot of holes in this, like that, you know, the facial recognition is kind of shitty. Also, I would not want anyone building a database of facial features, even though plenty of social media websites and places like that already are, or are providing the data out there openly in a way that other places can scrape for their AI databases and everything else. The ESRB issued a statement to game developer after this article ran, disputing the earlier characterization of the technology, arguing that the application of its facial age estimation is not to authorize the use of this technology with children. The statement continues by stating the facial scans fall under accordance with U.S. law and confirms if the person who is verifying consent is 25 years or older. That specific age threshold was listed by the ESRB to prevent teenagers or older-looking children from pretending to be a parent. And it concluded the statement to GameDeveloper.com by saying any images and data used for this process are never stored, used for AI training, used for marketing, or shared with anyone. No one is asking for this. This is not a thing that, like, I don't... There are reasons to look for better parental controls. And that is something that the consoles have improved. That is not something that phones have always gotten great at doing. And so I don't look at this so much as like console purchases, which I think is where people tend to go when they think about the ESRB. Is this something for like, oh, you're using a browser-based game and you're buying more Robux, or you're on your phone trying to play a thing and they want to make sure you're of age or whatever. But like, again, I think that the parental control stuff on Xbox just got overhauled to be more in line with legal regulations. They had to issue some statements about that relatively recently. There's already so much technology in place and already so many things in place to try to provide a place for parents to interject, to intervene if necessary, whether that's spending limits on consoles, whether that's, the console, the way a console can limit which games a child account can run. This stuff is not always as robust on some of the phone ecosystems, but I know on Apple devices, you can have a thing where if anyone tries to buy something, like, you have like family accounts. And so if a kid tries to buy something, it sends you a message first saying like, hey, do you approve this purchase? And you can just say, fucking no. This does not seem like something that the industry is asking for. I don't know if there is like, there's probably always going to be some additional push as to, try to make sure that kids are, a child's data is not kept. Like the minimalization of data from children is something that there's always a push for, and there's a continuing push for. So maybe this is them trying to get out ahead of that, but this does not seem like the way forward for this. This seems like this is something you work with platform holders to make, and that includes phone manufacturers, to make sure that there are controls in place so that parents can control what their kids have access to. Period. You don't need facial recognition to do this. You just straight up don't. Especially if the facial recognition is not for kids, but it is to make sure that someone is 25 or older. That's not an actual use case. That's not a problem anymore. So I don't know. Like, is this like, are they trying to get out ahead of some other legislation that is maybe going to head their way and maybe would touch video games? Potentially. But also, is this the ESA trying to fucking do anything so that they can look like they're doing something, because they don't run E3 anymore. And really, all they've been doing other than that lately, as far as I can tell, is trying to make sure that the government doesn't think that loot boxes are gambling. That they've been trying to be very careful to make sure that the loot box money spigot does not get turned off. And so are they struggling to find a way to seem relevant in an era when the ESA has been kind of fucking up left and right? I don't know. You know, the like, what does the ESA do anymore? Are they successfully lobbying on behalf of the video game industry? You could argue that they are, because loot boxes are still out there. But again, is this like some like, hey, this is what we're doing, guys, we're out there? Is this like some like shake the keys sort of thing to try to get the video game industry to, you know, to keep funding them? Or I don't really know what the real situation is here. This just seems like very out of left field. And again, like I said, maybe there's some other child protection legislation working its way through the system that they're trying to address before it becomes a problem. But this seems like a bad solution to a non-problem, if that makes any sense. The ESA is out there, you know, like you can go to the ESA website and they will tell you their stated policies on a lot of things. And it's funny. You forget. Policy positions. The ESA engages on legal, policy, and public affairs matters to expand and protect the dynamic worldwide marketplace for computer and video games. Let's look at this one. Right to repair. Just at random. Here's their policy. Here's their policy. At least the bolded paragraph of their policy. Video game consoles are unique from other devices, appliances, and computer products in that they rely upon a secure platform to protect users, the integrity of the gaming experience, and the intellectual property of game developers. Right to repair mandates, which allow unauthorized parties to bypass the specialized software that protects video game consoles, present unique security and privacy risks to the video game ecosystem. So like, oh, you want to be able to open up and fix your consoles? No. That's, no, absolutely not. That's hacking. Right to repair? Fuck no, is their position. So, you know, again, they are a lobbying body on behalf of the video game industry, and that does not include its players. That is the industry. The industry would very much, you know, not like you to fucking open up their shit. They have similar, you know, they don't really get into... Emulation is kind of the other big one that I would look for here, but they don't have a specific thing there. And they have done, you know, solid lobbying on behalf of video game violence and you know, the connections to real world violence there that, you know, as protected the video game industry over the years, you know. So I'm not going to sit here and say that the ESA has been a 100% useless organization or anything like that. You know, it feels like their time has passed. They can't run a trade show anymore. It feels like a lot of their positions are increasingly anti-consumer, which, again, should not be surprising, but does not seem awesome. They've got a page about in-game purchases that, you know, that make in-game purchases sound pretty good, and so on and so forth. So, yeah, that's it for the news. I would not let the ESRB scan your face. Just from a privacy perspective, I just don't think that they're especially trustworthy. I don't think that they're a solid enough organization that you can go like, oh, yeah, sure, you can hold that stuff. Why don't we get into emails? podcast@guard.bike is the email address for you to send in emails to me. I actually opened up my email here to a statement from the ESRB. Sent a couple of hours ago, because I guess in the tweet that I tweeted out about the show, I mentioned that we were going to talk about the ESRB stuff. So let's take a look at this. First and foremost, this application is not to authorize the use of this technology with children, full stop, nor does this software take and store selfies of users or attempt to confirm the identity of users. Furthermore, this application makes no mention of using age estimation to prevent children from purchasing and or downloading restrictively rated video games, nor do we intend to recommend its use in that way. Okay. I will go on to see what they do intend to use it for, but that seems like the only thing the ESRB would use it for, but here we go. As background, ESRB Privacy Certified is a COPPA Safe Harbor Seal certification program that works with its member companies to help ensure they comply with all relevant privacy regulations in the US and increasingly abroad. While EPC is under ESRB's self-regulatory umbrella, it operates independently of ESRB's ratings and enforcement activities. So that's another thing they do. Like you'll see at the bottom of a website sometime, you will see ESRB Privacy Certified. Again, when we think about the ESA, the ESRB, and their ability to maintain privacy with the E3 hacking stuff that went on, and the credentials that were all leaked, security is hard. And so stuff like this is going to happen, but it does create a bit of a trust gap. COPPA, if you're not familiar with it, is the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act that was passed back in 98. That's in their material. I don't just have that off the top of my head. But COPPA is another one of those things like the GDPR that on the website side, we had to think a lot about COPPA and how we implemented it in terms of login flow and user registration flow, what sort of data you are keeping from someone. It's the thing. I think GameFAQs did this. A lot of message boards do this when, you get baited into saying you're under 13 and you immediately get banned. That's COPPA. So COPPA requires that companies, this is again going back to their statement, requires that companies obtain a verifiable parental consent, which is VPC, before collecting, using, or sharing any personal information from children under the age of 13. In other words, the company already has knowledge that the user is a child, typically from an age gate or attempt to register for a game platform or service. The FTC has previously authorized various methods that companies can use for VPC, including asking for government ID, calling a toll-free number, faxing a consent form, video conferencing, etc. These methods haven't been updated since 2015. As a COPPA Safe Harbor, EPC has the authority to approve and implement new methods without involving the FTC. That said, EPC, which again is the ESRB Privacy Certified program, takes its role and responsibilities very seriously, and considering how new the technology is, EPC preferred to obtain approval directly from the FTC through their application process before approving its use by EPC members. So this is then... As you can see on page 3 and 4 of the application, the consent method and the live facial scans, not facial recognition, which is used to determine identity. So, okay. Involves confirming if the person who is verifying consent is 25 years or older. When a child attempts to sign up for a new service, like a website, application, video game platform, etc., by U.S. law, they will be prompted to provide a parent's or caregiver's email address or other contact information. The parent is then usually sent an email asking them to confirm their consent for the collection of certain data from the child. If the company collecting the data is using Yoti technology, which is one of the technology platforms they intend to implement, the parent will be asked for their consent. The parent will be asked for their consent and prompted to use their front-facing camera to scan their face, which must be live and in person. Yoti's technology encrypts the information gathered from the scan, then breaks down portions of this scan to accurately estimate. So basically, this sounds like it's preventing... So if a child goes and signs up for a new service, like a new Xbox Live account that's not a child account, or they go and sign up... Well, no, if they go and sign up for a website and they say, hey, I'm a child, then they have to provide, and you've seen this on, this is a, Roblox and some of these other platforms that largely cater to kids. They then have to enter another email address. I signed up for Roblox not that long ago, and it was like trying to get me to enter a parent's email address. And I'm like, it was actually harder for me to register as an adult at the time. And so this is something they are using as a part of that sort of privacy certification and not around game ratings and purchasing. This is like if you sign up for a service like a Roblox, or if you sign up for a website that is using the ESRB's privacy certification as an age verification thing, which, yeah, I guess you could. That this is then designed to like prevent the kid from getting the parent's phone and saying, yes, I am, yes, I am, yes, let me sign up for this service, yes, because it is designed to take a scan of the face and ensure that face is 25 years or older. That's why it's not for scanning the faces of children, which I understand is a concern for people. That's not necessarily the concern I have here per se, so much so as I do of any kind of facial scan. The only company I directly trust with any kind of facial recognition stuff is Apple. And even then I was like, ugh. So that is what they are attempting to do here. Our application to the FTC recommends that the age threshold be set to 25 to prevent teenagers or older looking children from pretending to be a parent. And I assume if you are a young looking parent, there will probably be some additional process you can go through if for whatever reason you fail the facial scan. But I don't know. To be perfectly clear, any images and data used for this process are never stored, used for AI training, used for marketing, or shared with anyone. The only piece of information that is communicated to the company requesting VPC is a yes or a no. So that means all of the facial data stays with Yodi and the ESRB. And it just comes back, yes, that's an adult, or no, it's not. That is why we consider it to be a highly privacy protective solution for VPC. I guess I just don't think I agree with that. So let's take that at face value, because again, that's the thing they're not trying to build this in to prevent people from purchasing M-rated games. It's separate from the game stuff. It is something. This ties right into everything we were just talking about with the Ubisoft story. Weirdly enough, that like this is all about the laws and regulations that like you look at it and you go like, no, this is good for people. It's good. It's privacy. It's privacy oriented for you, the user, on the company side of building a website, which I am not doing anymore. But goddamn, COPPA, the GDPR. All of those things created engineering headaches all fucking day long. In terms of how user flow had to be created, how signups had to be handled, and how all of that stuff had to work. Of course, this then creates a situation where you are now potentially forced, though I'm sure you can opt out of you would have to be able to opt out of this in favor of the previous methods that they used for establishing consent. So the idea here is that they're trying to make this easier and store less data for parents that have children signing up for services. That instead of filling out a form, instead of saying, that you can just go, that's my face, I'm an adult, let them do it. And that would let the child create the account. That is the use case. That makes a lot more sense. That use case at least makes sense to me as to why they would want facial recognition in the first place. It's not, because it's not about game purchasing. That said, I would not feel comfortable doing this. I would not feel comfortable using this facial data like this. This is not. And if I were building a website and or service, this is not something I would be interested in implementing as part of that service. And so this is them attempting to modernize and update the technology for the methods that they already have in place to try to verify an adult's identity, or rather, not even identity, but verify that an adult is an adult. But yeah, I don't know. This stuff still seems highly sketchy because the trust points are okay. Like, images and data are never stored, used for AI training or marketing, or shared with anyone. Sure, yeah. Like, if everything is working as intended, then I'm sure that that's true, because they don't want to store that information. Again, as someone who has been, in part of the chain of, I had, as someone who had the ability to go look at any user's email address, for example, or what they entered as their real name, or go look at their credit card payment details, not see the credit card, but, be able to see kind of the X'd out details of how they were paying for a membership or something like that. You want to store as little data about someone as possible in this day and age. You want to store the minimum amount of data required for you to message that person and maintain that subscription and so on and so forth. You don't want to have a bunch of additional data, because then you're in that fucking, you're in that chain of responsibility of making sure that it doesn't fucking get out there. So the easiest way to do that is to not fucking collect it in the first place. There are some things you need to collect in order to run a business of that nature, right? Of a signing up for a service, signing up for, not everything is going to be fucking Mulvad, right? It's not going to be like, hey man, you want a Roblox account? Put some cash in an envelope and send it over here and we'll tell you a number. Like, that's not realistic. But you want to store as little fucking data as possible on a person, because you don't want, if anything fucking happens, God forbid, you don't want to be responsible for, because then it's like, well, why did you keep all this information? You're like, oh yeah, well, I guess we didn't need any of that stuff. You want to have the minimum amount possible for someone to use a fucking message board. You want to have the minimum amount possible for someone to pay you for a subscription, to buy a fucking t-shirt, to whatever. You don't want to store a bunch of extra shit. The company that this is I never touched any of this data because it was not part of our division. But one of the fucking things after we got purchased, the recent one while I was still there, is that company ran a bunch of fucking health stuff. And they had some services that interfaced with actual health data. And so the employee training, even as someone who never was part of any of the fucking health data stuff, the employee training around what the fuck do you do with data, around HIPAA laws and everything else, these were services they were running. It was not like shady. They were not like storing health data on the sly. They were running a business around health data separately from our fucking stupid asses. And they fucking sold that shit off as soon as they fucking could. They're like, get this bullshit out of here. We got a lot of AI articles about tech to write. So the employee training was just a blanket thing. And so the number of fucking times I had to go through this process of storing data on consumers and how you don't want to fucking do it, and what do you do if you have if you have a fucking file that is private and has health related information on someone because you have a business reason to have it, and what are you going to do with it, and how do you keep the chain of integrity, make sure that it's fucking wild. And they went through painstaking attempts to make sure that it was drilled into employees that you were not to, hey, don't fucking copy someone's private health information to a USB stick and then leave the building with it. A lot of it's like stupid shit. You're like, well, yeah. Like, normally people wouldn't even have access to that data in the first place to fucking leave the building with it. But there was a whole, if HIPAA was involved, there was a whole separate thing. That's my understanding of it. Again, I never interfaced with any of that part of the fucking business because we were over trying to fucking tell people to buy good video games instead of bad ones, which is a health thing, I think, but a mental health one. So, but anyway, that's all a long-winded way of saying that this privacy stuff is a fucking minefield, and it is very hard to get right. And so I guess, like, I just don't know that it's hard because you need to build something that's legally compliant. And so that inspires a desire to outsource that compliance. And so that's why you would go to the ESRB, I suppose, and say, we're outsourcing all of our data compliance around minors and privacy and all this other stuff to them. And we're implementing the EPC on our website and on our service so that they fucking deal with it and we don't. That's tempting, you know? I don't know that I would trust that interface with an external firm to track all that and just send me back the yes and no. Like, I would almost rather fucking, I don't know, man. We had really good engineers, so I felt comfortable with the way that they built stuff. And I felt comfortable that they could build stuff in a way that was good and legal. But other places that don't have good engineering teams, I see why they would just be like, fuck, man, we don't want to get sued. We don't want to fuck this up and have our data leak. So let's go to the ESRB and implement whatever they're doing. And this is them, according to what they're saying here, trying to upgrade the technology they already use to go through this verification process. So I think for me, the big part is I don't agree with that technology. I don't agree with the privacy on it. Again, you know, it just comes down to a trust thing of like, oh, well, Yodi gets your data and they're not storing it. I don't know what the fuck a Yodi is. I don't, you know, like, I don't know that I trust the ESRB. Again, considering the amount of data that the ESA leaked around E3 time and all the bad websites that the ESA has had for things over the years, like, do I trust their tech? I have to imagine that whatever tech they're putting into VPC is probably a lot more robust than the bullshit they built for the fucking E3 website. That said, I don't know that I would, as a parent, I won't have to deal with this for a number of years, I don't think. My kid signing up for a service and me getting a thing saying, what? Porno Roblox, son? We need to have a discussion. All right, just set this to 1985 and then it'll look like you're over 13. It's just never tell anyone online that you're under 13. So that's their statement in full. GameDeveloper.com did not publish the full statement. They posted a few clips from this. I don't think this is an amazing idea, but it does make me interested in what their other ideas are for verifying. Because, okay, what are they mentioned what the other... children under the age of 13. The company already has knowledge that a user is under 13 from an age gate or attempt to register. Okay, including asking for government ID, calling a toll-free number. All right, okay. Let's rate these on the fucking hassle meter. Asking for government ID. The last thing I want to do if my kid is signing up for a service is scan my fucking driver's license and send it to them. So I think that sucks shit. I sent a scan of my driver's license to Facebook so that they could verify my Instagram account. And that felt like a dumb move. What are the other things they have here? I already lost the... Damn it. Okay, here we go. Asking for government ID. Not a fan. Calling a toll-free number. That's dumb, but funny. Because it leads to situations where kids can go, hello, yes, I'm a parent. I was born in 1985. Let my child on this website. Yes, porno Roblox. Let my son... This is back in the BBS days. You would call BBSs that wanted to do voice verification, which meant that the guy that ran the BBS, just some dude in a bedroom with a computer, wanted to call you and make sure you were who you said you were. A lot of this is because a lot of these BBSs had pornography on them, or actually pirated software. But really, a lot of times they just wanted to try to get people to be over 18 because they didn't want to deal with idiot kids. And so voice verification was a thing that we had to do. I had to do it a couple of times when I was like 14. And my voice didn't drop until I was 17 or so. So I always had I had range. So I could get on the phone but I was a voice cracking 15-year-old going like, yeah, let me in your BBS. And they did every time. It was never, no one ever said, you sound like a child. I'm not letting you access the pornography. I think really they just wanted to have a conversation with you and make sure you weren't a fucking dumbass. So if you were a kid, at least you were a cool kid. I don't know what the thing was. So calling a toll-free number, I guess, I don't know what information you have to give at that point other than let my kid do this. Faxing a consent form, which seems very easy to fake. Yeah, AI, yes, AI voice changers and everything else definitely has an impact on phone calls and how, how you can sound like an adult on a phone call. Yeah, voice changers and everything else are much better than they were back when I was trying to field these voice verification calls. Video conferencing, etc. Those are the things that they list as the current in place ways that they verify that an adult is receiving this communication. And they say that they have not updated those methods since 2015. And so this is them trying to update their methods with a more modern solution, which is, they want to look at your face and see if it's old, which the validity of that seems suspect, but I guess if they get a failure, then you just go through one of the other methods. The GameDeveloper.com story kind of implies that hey, a lot of this technology has been bad at identifying people of color and a lot of other bunk situations like that. That's certainly a concern as well. Hard to know what tech they're using and if it's still valuable in that specific way. But there you go. So I don't know. It's, I look at all the methods they have in place and I think there are very easy ways around them. And so I see why they might want to come up with something a little more modern and a little bit better, because asking for government ID is literally use your phone to take a picture of a driver's license, which I can always go in my mom's purse and steal her ID, take a picture of it and send it and say, I'm an adult. Let me access the good Roblox. Calling a toll-free number, like chat said, has become a lot easier in the wake of AI voice changing tools and everything else. Yeah, sure, okay. Faxing a consent form is actually the best one. Faxing a consent form is good in a Leisure Suit Larry way of if you're still old enough to know what a fax machine is and how to fax, then odds are you're an actual adult. That's actually probably the perfect one. Video conferencing. Yeah, okay. Video conferencing kind of rules out some of the easier AI filtering or whatever, I guess, but no one has a fax machine anymore. If I had to fax something, I think my printer will fax. Maybe my printer scanner might fax, but I don't have a phone line to plug it into. So I would have to use a digital, there are gateways to, fax machines that you can do on the internet, and you can pay for services or do different things to, send a PDF to a fax machine via email or text, or I forget what it is. But, so I don't know, I guess with all of this perspective in mind, I look at it and say, hey, I see why you would want to upgrade or update your methodology for proving that an adult is an adult in these situations. I just don't know that I trust facial recognition enough at this time to ever feel comfortable using it for some random company. It was like, and imagine, okay, like a less tech savvy, and maybe this cuts both ways, but I think if you end up in a situation with like a less tech savvy parent and they get a notification on their phone or something that says your son or daughter is trying to sign up for a service and we need to scan your face, you're going to look at it and go like, fuck you, man. The Russians are in my phone. You know, like you're going to be like, God damn it. You know, you're going to throw your phone down in disgust. Like that just doesn't seem like a trustworthy solution in this day and age. And so I look at it and go, this is not the way to go. Because even if you are tech savvy, then that increases your like understanding of it enough to where you go like, wait, who wants my fucking facial data and what are they doing with it? Like this seems like this does not seem like an easy pathway that maybe they are thinking it is. And I don't know that I have a good foolproof solution that I would implement instead, but this does not seem like a great way to go. And again, not something anyone is asking for at this time. Right? I mean, are people out there saying, these copper regulations are so archaic? Like, are they getting a lot of pushback from parents or websites or the people that are using their service going like, you guys, this thing is garbage? I don't, maybe they are. I don't know. But this doesn't seem like, at no point do they say that this is in response to their members or in response to new legislation. This just seems like them going like, we think we're going to make our service better. And I don't know that I agree with that. So there you go. Thank you to the ESRB's PR representative for seeing my tweet and sending this over. Also, same person who sent me a bunch of Neo Geo Pocket Color games back in the day for review purposes. That package was more fun to receive than the ESRB stuff, I'll say. Anyway, emails, podcast@guard.bike is the email address for your emails. And let's look at a few of those. Ben Hansen from Min Max writes in and says, Zybots inquiry. Hey, Jeff, what do you think of Zybots? Ben, I'm glad you asked. Zybots is incredible. The arcade game Zybots, it's a 2-player side-by-side game behind the back. It's a third-person shooter. You're running in a maze. You have turning controls where you can rotate your character, and so you'll end up with guys shooting you from the side and shit. It uses all that same like Atari like System 1 or whatever it is, like the sound hardware for voice. And so all of those sound effects are really good. The gun looks cool. It's got this big like ring around the end of it, like your little ray gun that you're using. The guys look cool. It's like Gauntlet in there. There's a constant energy drain, and I think it's more oppressive than the food situation was in Gauntlet. And so I think that's a little frustrating because Zybots also tries to do the thing where like it has a shop between levels and you can buy shot upgrades and shield replenishment and a few other things. And you can just insert more coins at the shop screen. It's got microtransactions, baby. You can put in more money to get a little bit more currency at the shop, if I remember correctly. Like you can replenish your stuff early. And so in a lot of ways, it's kind of a more modern, it's like a sci-fi behind the back third person take on Gauntlet, sort of. And that you're walking through these mazes and doing, I think the controls are really neat. I think Zybots is a great game. Great game. Yeah. So same folks responsible. And yeah, I have always loved Zybots. I would have loved to have seen more Zybots. I know they did some home, there was like it came out on the links and stuff, and there's some decent home versions of Zybots, but that original arcade version of Zybots is A great game. Absolutely great game. More enemy variety would have been nice. You're shooting a lot of robots, and the cool thing is a lot of them will have like weak points, and so if you line up your shot just right, you're not aiming up and down, but you are kind of aiming side to side. And so if you hit that weak point just right, they'll fucking glitch out and explode early, and that's kind of cool. But yeah, the pay to win aspects of Zybot's kind of a downer, but I do think that they handled it a little bit more gracefully than, say, Iron Man Ivan Stewart's Off-Road, where you could just put in a bunch of quarters to have a whole bunch of money and fully upgrade your truck. But then also, as you upgraded your truck with more nitrous, the more nitrous you used in a race, the faster the gray truck would go, which was Iron Man Stewart's truck, I guess, in the game. And so, in a weird way, the best way to win consistently in Iron Man Off-Road was to be very judicious with your turbo use. Because if you just fucking started a race and just fucking slammed on that button, the top speed of that gray truck just kept going up and up and up, and would eventually kick your fucking ass. And then Double Dragon 3 had a thing where you could put in more money to buy stat upgrades or something at the very beginning of the game. Double Dragon 3 sucks. It's a terrible game. Anyway, yeah, Zybots is fantastic. Just audio visual, just like I love the look of that game, the way the guys look, their pixelated behind the back third person thing, the you turn at 90-degree angles, and so it's almost like Faceball. Well, no, Faceball you could actually just free turn. But it was like strafing, like your joystick strafed, and then you could twist the joystick to turn in the maze. And yeah, it's fucking neat. It's a neat game. It's a really neat game. Mark from Michigan writes in with a very cursed looking picture of an arcade cabinet. I was wondering if you've ever come across a Street Fighter II arcade machine with pie buttons. I saw one for sale online locally and was blown away. I included a picture of the machine, was wondering if this was somehow an official release or some aftermarket modification. I would think it would be a mod, but then I remember that Street Fighter 1 had those pressure sensitive buttons and realized that Capcom back then was out of their fucking minds. So this machine is not official. I don't think Street Fighter ever came in this configuration, but what he means by pie buttons, there's these big circles that look like they have pie charts on them. And so it's a little circle that has 3 buttons in it, cut in into pie wedges. And there's 2 of those, one for punches and one for kicks, on this particular arcade cabinet. It's disgusting. It looks gross. It looks filthy. It looks like a bad way to play Street Fighter. I'm trying to remember if those pie buttons ever officially got used on any game. There must have been something. Because otherwise, why would those buttons exist? I will throw this in the, if you're on the Discord, I will throw this in the live programming channel. And if you want to get on the Discord, go to patreon.com/Jeff Gerstmann. It's a filthy mess of an arcade machine. Just disgusting. But I'm trying to remember what, if any other arcade machine would have had those. It's a weird circular button with 3 buttons kind of carved into it. Like a pie chart is how it looks. It's real grimy. I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but no, as far as I know, that is not official. I don't think Capcom ever issued a cabinet that way. Street Fighter 1 did have, when Street Fighter 1 first came out, they did try to do the big pressure sensitive buttons, and so you would get your 3 strengths of punch or kick by how hard you hit the 2 buttons, but those things broke and were very inconsistent, and very quickly operators switched. Like, it's hard, you don't see those anymore because they all broke, and so operators replaced them with the standard, the now standard 6-button configuration. Yeah, it's a filthy looking Street Fighter 2. Anonymous writer, we got a couple of these. Writes in and says, do you think, it's weird for this to be anonymous, but okay. Do you think Epic is working on a new video game? Man. Fortnite released in early access in July 2017 and later became how we know it now in 2018. This is the last game directly from Epic Games, unless you count that Matrix tech demo movie tie-in. Do you think maybe the revenue they get from supporting Fortnite, from supporting third-party video games, and from supporting the film industry is perhaps taking up all of their resources? Is making a new game basically too expensive or risky, given what it could expect to return versus the revenue collected from the other business activities? Yeah, I think that they are focused because, you know, remember, Epic has a publishing business as well, where they're publishing Alan Wake 2, among other games. Like Epic has a lot of different stuff now. And so supporting the engine is probably the most valuable work they could be doing, because that is helping the film industry and whatever else. And I'm sure that they do quite well from some of that. Of course, there's also Fortnite. At the party last weekend, one of the kids at the party, there was the kid who, if you remember from my 4th of July barbecue, sat and played Fortnite the entire time on his Switch. He asked me if I had ever heard of a game called PUBG Mobile, because his younger brother was apparently getting into it. And I said, yes, I have heard of PUBG. It's very popular. In fact, and I said, in fact, it is more popular than Fortnite in some places. And I said, I also said that it came first. I said, yes, when he seemed aware of it, but maybe not the, because I said, yeah, no, they PUBG came out before. Fortnite was just the save the world stuff. And then PUBG came out, and then Fortnite stole it all. And he was like, huh, wow. So I don't think I dissuaded him from this. You got to get off this Fortnite. They're all thieves over there. No, whatever. Remember that when PUBG Corp or whatever the fuck they were called there for a while before they became called Kratom? Kratom, right? That's the name of the PUBG developers now, when they were threatening to sue. Wild. Do I think Epic is working on a game? No. I think Epic is working on fun new experiences for Fortnite. And maybe they have some loose ideas about things they might do with a new game. Anything's possible. But someone also sent me an email with a link to the Unreal Tournament website, which was sad, because it still said Unreal Tournament pre-alpha season. And you know, I was like, is there a new Unreal Tournament coming? I'm like, no, that would appear to just be the Unreal Tournament that they started and never finished. One of the many games destroyed by Fortnite. I don't want to sound like I'm completely shit talking Fortnite. It's popular. People like it. Like, whatever. But I still wish that Unreal Tournament was still a thing. That'd be nice. We have another anonymous email from a video game insider who says, I don't know how the details were stated publicly, but my understanding of our relationship post-merger is that Sony absolutely does not get to tell us where we ship our games. This is from someone at Bungie, by the way. Though everything else you said is obviously correct, and even if they could, we talked about this last week, where we talked about, you know, some of the Microsoft Call of Duty stuff and how, you know, Bungie intended to keep shipping games across multiple platforms. And I said, you know, if Sony really wanted to, they could say you are now Sony exclusive, and this is the response to that. Sony absolutely does not get to tell us where we ship our games through, though everything else you said is obviously correct, and even if they could tell us to make exclusives for them, I'm sure they stand to make a lot more money having multi-platform stuff out there, same way Microsoft does with Minecraft, etc., etc. But yeah, my understanding is that Sony has absolutely no say over what we make and where we ship, which is still wild to me. Yeah, hell of a deal. I guess the thing I would say about a deal like that is it's only as strong as Bungie's leadership. It's only as strong as Pete Parsons. And if those people leave, then potentially, eventually, you end up in a situation where the Bungie leadership is like, yeah, sure, we'll make a Sony exclusive. We don't care. But short term, yeah, obviously, yeah, nothing changes. Bungie is Bungie, all that sort of stuff. But you think about, say, 10 years down the line, 15 years down the line, and we look at Blizzard as an example of some of this, right? Blizzard was very much Blizzard under Activision for a very long time. And, you'd hear stories like, we knew a handful of people over at Blizzard, and you'd hear stories about like, oh man, so-and-so's like, this senior leadership person, so much of their time is taken up by keeping Activision at bay, like keeping Activision from getting in and fucking up the culture, keeping Activision from getting in and blah, 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 blah. All those people eventually left because I don't think that's a fun, fulfilling career. As much as as much as there's a thing of like, I've got to protect my thing from the people I sold my thing to. Relatable. You can't fucking do that forever. It's not, it'll make you crazy. So eventually you leave and retire, or you go start a new studio, or you do whatever else, right? So yeah, totally. No one's going to come in and fuck up Bungie. Yet. Stretched out over a far enough timeline, all bets are eventually off. Because the people who were there that made those deals, they go somewhere else. Eventually people retire. Eventually, like, hey, we're going, we're going to go do something else or do nothing because now I'm 70 years old and I don't want to run Bungie anymore. Or, whatever it is, right? Over time, those situations change. So, who can say? Like obviously everyone goes into these deals making these deals exactly that way. Where you go like, okay, well, clearly we need to let Bungie be Bungie because we saw what happened when Microsoft owned Bungie and how that eventually went. So if this relationship is going to work, we need to value this culture and everyone like in my experience, and this is not me shitting on the email. I think this is absolutely correct. This is absolutely true. I just think if you stretch this out over a long enough timeline, which is true of anything, those promises, those things, the people that were in there that remember why this was the way it was, eventually get replaced by different people who are just like, no, we own this thing. Let's do this. Or hey, what's the and the people that are maintaining the culture are leaving and doing something else, and so it's just things change over time naturally. It's that's not necessarily always a bad thing, but it does mean like when you were owned by another company, eventually that culture changes one way or the other because people change. Even if you were still independent, as people decide to retire and decide to move on, as senior management changes over and you end up with different people in those spots, like things change. I remember the thing, GameSpot, it's a great example. GameSpot 06, 05, maybe even 04. I don't remember exactly when. There were 3 founders of GameSpot. One was like a sales and business head. One was kind of managing like product and technology, and one was editorial. Over time, the business and the tech guys took off. And so the last one remaining was the content guy, the guy with actual editorial background. And his name's Vince Brody. I've talked about him before. Vince was, as editors, we would occasionally butt heads with Vince over various things because the business had to go in certain directions. And so, things, he would want to change things. He would come to us, and a good example of one that like we fought a lot about, but ultimately he was right. He came to us and said, I'm going to start putting review scores from other outlets on pages on GameSpot. So you'll be able to go to GameSpot and see what IGN gave a game. Now, as the editors and writers of all those reviews, naturally, we were like, the fuck you, fuck them, fuck those guys. Those guys suck shit. They can't write reviews to save their fucking lives. I don't want their fucking dirty garbage on our fucking website, blah, 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 you know, so on down the line. And finally, this went on for a while with like me and 4 other people being outraged, being like, how fucking dare you come to us and say this? And finally he was just like, look guys, it's happening. This is we're doing this. Like, thank you for your feedback, but we're fucking like basically just like, get fucked. And it was like, we were so fucking pissed. I was fucking pissed. I can't speak for everybody, but I'm pretty sure no one was fucking happy in that situation. But he's right. You want to have a one-stop shop. You want to have the most useful page on the internet. You want to have a page online that is the first and last place you need to go for whatever you need. And that was another way of doing that. This was not long. I think this was before or potentially after. It was right around the time that we had purchased GameRankings.com. And this would end up being 1 or 2 years before we purchased Metacritic as well, controlling all of the game aggregator, whatever's. And so he was a good guy to be in the middle there. He knew what the culture was. He knew why GameSpot was the best at what it did. He knew why editorial needed to be protected in a certain way. He knew why, even if it was a pain in the ass for him on the more business oriented stuff that he had taken on as the head of the entire division, like he was the one who was, when ad money was going out the door because of a game review, he said, well, that's the nature of this business, because he had been doing it for a very long time. And I feel he was damn good at his job, at being that guy in the middle of all of it. And he had a passion for it because he founded it, which can cut both ways. And so by and large, I loved working for Vince. We butted heads a handful of times over the years. He had threatened to fire me at least once or twice before. But by and large, Vince was fucking awesome. He left, like they went through these acquisitions. And so, why he left, I don't know. There's the CEO spot of the whole company opened up and he was not getting promoted into that spot. And so maybe he was like, well, if this is the highest my career is going to go here, I'll go somewhere else or whatever. I don't know. But at the time there was upheaval at the top because the head of the company was abruptly leaving over some shit he did not do. And so that led to a bunch of turmoil. There was a new guy put into that position who was largely a banker. Always the type of guy you want to have running a content business. And so Vince eventually left. He went off to Yahoo and took a lot of his guys with him. He had a handful of people around him that were senior product level people and whatever else. And they went over to Yahoo and they went and started a bunch of other stuff. And they didn't get involved in games ever again, as far as I know. And so that created a vacuum at the top. And so at first, one of the head of sales became the new head of GameSpot, which immediately sounds like a red flag, horrible situation. But she had been around long enough, again, to understand why editorial was the way it was, why all of this stuff was in place, and why it all worked. And so she wasn't there for long. She left for YouTube not long after that. And so you had this revolving door at the top. And you eventually end up in a position where that person at the top hasn't been there all that long, doesn't understand why things are the way they are. Not in a way, because like you want to have new ideas, right? You can't just be adhere to the 30-year-old thing, 20-year-old thing forever. But like a lot of arguments that had already been had would come up again in ways that were like, okay, I'm having to educate you about even more of this process now because you're so disconnected from editorial and how it works, and so disconnected from just the machinations of this business, that you just don't understand it. And so you end up with people in those positions that don't understand what got GameSpot to the dance in terms of users trusting it, in terms of like users respecting it, in terms of users coming to visit it every day, in terms of trying to build a community, in terms of trying to build like all of those other things. And so you end up with people that are just looking at the numbers and not looking at the actual thing. And, that's when bad decisions start happening. That's when, because you have people that are not able to see the full picture anymore. You have people who are not able to see what the vision was enough to come up with what the new vision should be. And so you end up with people in these positions that don't understand content, the people that just understand business and numbers and whatever else. They don't have a feel for it. They don't have a gut for it. And suddenly you're reporting to these people and they have no idea what you do or why you do it. And that's how you get fired. You end up with a banker at the top. You end up with a guy coming in from Maxim of all places, coming to be the new head of your division. And the day that we were supposed to meet him for lunch was the day the Kane and Lynch review run. So I never met that guy. So like two people I had never met and one that I had only been working for a brief period of time all came together to decide, yeah, fuck that guy, get him out of here. Like, of course they did. Of course they did. They don't fucking know jack shit. So whatever. And so that's, whatever. That's my personal fucking story, but like, whatever. You can play different versions of that out across a billion different businesses. The bumps are different. The individual situations are different, but the story of the startup that got acquired that had like a real passion for its users and over time fucking some shit happens and fucking, that shit eventually just fucking goes sideways, man. It's the way of things. And so like, again, this is not me saying, and then Bungie's going to eventually be shit, like whatever. It's, it doesn't happen to every company that gets acquired, but it's just that like things change. The situations change. Dan, you were there for most of it. You were there for 9 years of it. Ugh. There's more people that know where the bodies are buried. In the chat right now. So yeah, this is just how this cycle works. And so I try to focus on the positive end of the cycle of when these companies get acquired, people get paid out, people get on retention contracts that pay them to stay there for a number of years, and then they get paid out on those clauses. And sometimes that can be game-changing money for them that lets them go out and found something new. And so when a studio gets acquired, I look at it and go like, hey man, eventually, some of these senior people, and maybe Bungie isn't Bungie for 20 more years, but Bungie then sprouts a ton of seeds. And those studios grow up and flourish, right? Ideally. And so that's the same with like Respawn and some of these other companies with the big acquisitions over the years. You think about stuff like that. But who could say really, how this stuff ends up going? Because yeah, no one wants to fuck with the company, but then eventually those people aren't there anymore, and the people who knew to not fuck with these individual things are suddenly not there and cannot be convinced otherwise. So yeah. Let's do one more email here. Jonathan from Boston writes in and says, this past weekend, Team Fortress 2 hit its all-time high player count of 253,225 concurrent players, nearly 17 years into its run. Do you have any thoughts on the game and its legacy, for better or worse? I thought that they did about the smartest thing that they could when it came to launching Team Fortress 2. When it came to making a sequel to Team Fortress that is not Team Fortress Classic. I think that the videos they made of the individual character, like the amount of personality they crammed into that game and the amount of writing they did around the edges with introducing the classes and everything they did trying to make some lore around it, gave something for players to really bite into and stay there. Because if it's just like, hey man, here's this mode, I don't know, you're an engineer and it's this lifeless thing, then it probably does fine if it's a great mode, but it's subject to becoming obsolete, becoming like it feels like, oh, whatever. Instead, I think you have a lot of people that love it, and it still looks pretty good because of the style of art that they went with. I think ages better than certainly like TFC does. And I think that all that personality and everything else is maybe the smartest thing they ever did. Now, the reason people are playing it again is because they issued a new update. They kind of integrated some more community maps and some other stuff into the game more officially. And, there's more work for them to do on TF2 for sure. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of the game itself. Like just that class-based multiplayer of that nature was never my thing. The idea of playing a support, playing this, playing that, playing scout, playing, like that sort of role-based multiplayer was not something I was very interested in. And so I've never been big on that type of game, but it's cool that it's still out there. I still have my Sam and Max ears and gun. One of these days, those things are going to be worth money again, and I'll sell them on the Valve store and retire my vintage Luger morph. But yeah. Anyway, that's going to do it for the show. Have yourselves a good one. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll stream maybe some Mr. Run and Jump, as well as some, you want those games right, so here you go. Now let's see you clear them, which is a very, very fun thing to shout. Head on over to the Patreon, patreon.com/Jeff Gerstmann. You can sign up, annual discount if that's your thing, and get on the Discord where the energy drink channel last night did in fact get upgraded into a full-fledged channel instead of a thread. While we're here, I am going to, if I can find it, here we go. I have a key for AEW Fight Forever that they sent that is an extra. This is either a Steam key or a PlayStation key. Looking at it, I think it might be too many characters for a PlayStation key, so this might be a Steam key. I'm going to paste this into the live programming channel. And first come, first serve. So good luck, everyone. I'll give this another 20 seconds for people to get ready. And I'm going to hit return. Well, I was going to count it down, but it'll appear in the chat before I finish counting down. So here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Code. Anyway, yeah, patreon.com/Jeff Gerstmann. Sign up, get on the Discord, get some bonus shows. New Game Boys to Men hit last week. Next one, I believe we're going to be getting into the very first E3 1995, which was a heck of a show. Wild show. Wild times. Saturn. PlayStation. You heard of these things? Big stuff. Big stuff. We'll see you then. I'm going to push this button. And then we're going to go. Yeah, Remnant 2 is out this week. I gotta spend some more time with Remnant as well. So maybe we'll play some of that tomorrow. And then Rashid is out on Street Fighter 6. I got into the training mode with him for a little bit yesterday and was like, oh yeah, that's that guy. That's that guy doing what that guy do. So, take care, everybody. Back tomorrow or next week if you're only a podcast person. If not, hey, these videos go up on a YouTube channel. Go subscribe to the YouTube channel, which is the Jeff Gerstmann Show. Or, I guess, follow on Twitch, which is Jeff Gerstmann. Follow me on Blue Sky. Something.